Hello everyone and welcome to Ask Hearthstone's The Witchwood set review. We're going to be reviewing 5 classes today, including Druid, Hunter, Priest, Paladin, and Mage. And we have some guests joining us to help us with the review today. Those are Corbett, Alice, and Tachii. Corbett is a moderator of Ask Hearthstone and Competitive Hearthstone, and he
listed a data.
He finishes Legend every single season. Alice is a high-level Legend player that has created guides for decks like Dragon, Priest, and Jade Druid. And Tachii is a regular finisher on the top 250 arena leaderboard. So we're in good hands today. We're going to start off the stream looking at Druid cards. And we have the Witchwood Apple, which has amazing artwork, and I love the look of this card. It's add 3 2/2 treants to your hand. Corbett, what do you think about this card?
I mean, this was the card that really began the hype for this hand druid archetype, right? And people are really looking at it and thinking, there's serious mountain giant synergy, and they're seeing some of these other cards. But ultimately, I am really not a fan of this. I think that the treants themselves are overcosted at 2 mana. Had they been at 1 mana, we could have been looking at another Force of Nature type card. But for now, I think that there's going to be a lot of issues with the idea of trying to play this kind of card on 2. We're trying to maybe skip Wild Growth, or we're just not being able to get the right kind of cards in our hand, and the benefit isn't ultimately that high. And so, like a lot of these kind of hand druid cards, I actually rated this 1 star. I don't think this will see play. I think that people are going to move away from this hand druid archetype and back to towards a more traditional defensive type druid build.
That's fair. Tachii, what do you think about this card in Arena? There should be a lot of value, right?
I wouldn't say it's a lot of value because like Corbett said, it's 2 mana for the 2/2s. 2 mana for 2/2 is not good. It's below average. You want a 2/3 stat line for 2 mana. And the first time you play it, it's 2 mana, do nothing basically. So it's pretty below average. And I think the meta is going to be way too fast for it to be this slow. So off the bat, I would say I also give it a 1.5 stars for Arena. Like Corbett said, if the Treant was 1 mana, then this card would probably be average in Arena, but it's still 2 mana, so effectively it's 7 mana for 6/6 worth of stats. Doesn't pass the vanilla test in Arena, so it's gonna be below average.
That's fair. Alice, do you have anything to add to that?
I think it's interesting to make the comparison to Handlock, since that's the other hand deck. And it's kind of garbage when you do that too, because in Handlock you're tapping every turn and drawing good cards from your deck, and here you're filling your hand with garbage just to have a full hand. And then the payoff is Mountain Giant, which is okay, and then the other cards are kind of meh. So it's not really worth it.
That's fair. Alright, let's move on to the next card, which is Druid of the Scythe. Choose 1, transform into a 4/2 with Rush, or a 2/4 with Taunt. 3 mana 2/2. Alice, what do you think about this card?
So the first comparison is Feral Rage. Okay, so the 4/2 Rush is way better than the 2/4 Taunt one. It's Squirming Tentacle, which is really bad. So we don't really want that one. And then, so we want the 4/2 Rush most of the time. And then the first comparison is Feral Rage, which is this card, but way better. Because you can get an armor as well when you need to. I don't know, I really, really don't like it. It's a below average 3-drop.
That's fair. What do you think, Corbett?
Yeah, I mean, that Feral Rage comparison is something. Other comparisons that jumped out were possibly Corcoran Elite, acting as that 4 mana 4/3 charger. Obviously charge is very different than Brush, but ultimately the stat line isn't awful. That's the thing. This is a highly flexible card where there are going to be that flexibility is kind of really important to value. I think that a lot of players have seen that with a lot of these choose one cards previously that have been underrated. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to fit in any current Druid archetype. It obviously works like very, very poorly with Oaken Summons, which is one of the best Druid cards heading into the expansion. And so I just don't see the fit. There was a chance, really, that if a more aggressive Druid, such as aggro token Druid, was still around, that this card could see play. You know, as a 3-mana 2/4 beast, that's not really any different than, say, Tar Creeper, which saw a lot of play. But ultimately, because of the way Druid's situated right now and how the meta is going to look, I think, with a lot of like Q block and that, I don't see this seeing play. And it's another card that I was forced to kind of give 1 star. I don't think it's awful though, but I will give it 1 star just because I don't think it will see play.
That's fair. What about in Arena, Tachii?
In Arena, this would just be an average card. You're gonna pick it. Most likely, you're gonna do 3 mana for the rush. Rush in general in Arena is gonna be pretty good. So I'll say this is like an average card. I like the comparison with Feral Rage, and Feral Rage is like an average Arena card. I will say this is slightly better than Feral Rage in Arena, just because there are a chance where you could just slam this in to a 1/1 dude, Paladin, and you just have a 3 mana that killed. So it's just an average card in Arena. I'm just gonna give it 3 stars for average.
Sounds good. All right, let's move on to the next card. Ferocious Howl. It's a 3 mana. Draw a card. Gain 1 armor for each card in your hand. Does this have a place, Corbett?
I think this absolutely has a place. Again, going back to this defensive kind of Druid style, this is akin to Shield Block, which is obviously a card that has seen lots of play in Control Warrior builds in the past. The main difference being this has probably far greater upside in the very late game. Downside being we don't quite have the use for the armor in the same way Druid, in the same way Warrior did with Shield Slam and those kind of cards. But you know, we still have the Spell Stone. We still have those kind of cards to make use of that. And so I think that this is definitely something that could see play in whatever slower defensive Druid archetype exists, whether that's kind of the Tiger build or anything else that emerges. I really like this card. I don't think it's amazing, but I think that it's good enough to see play, and it just continues to add to this defensive repertoire. Sorry, that the Druid has at the moment. Almost meant to say weapon. But yeah, this adds to this defensive build, and I think it'll see play. So I gave it 3.
Okay, Alice, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have something to do on turn 3 with what's it, Jade Blossom, rotating out, since we don't have like another ramp spell. And there's just like a decent card on turn 3 on curve. If you skip Wild Growth, it's just Shield Block, which is fine. Like Druid has really good defensive tools now, which didn't used to. You have Paths, you have Malfury, you have Plague. This fits in well with those. It's okay.
And I assume in Arena this isn't really going to be too great, right, Tachii?
Yeah, this is where you see a clear divide between Constructed and Arena. In Arena, especially for Druid, in Arena, there's a lot of card draw already. Ultimate Infestation, Nourish, Branching Path, and all of those cards are pretty much better than this card. So, also Lunar Visions, which never see play in Constructed. So this card is like worse than all of those. So you should never pick this card. I'm gonna give it like I give it a 2 stars out of 5.
Does Lunar Visions rotate, or am I thinking of the wrong?
It does. It's Mean Streets.
Ah, Mean Streets.
Okay, so Lunar Visions. Okay, so I mean Lunar Vision is better than this card, but would you draft this now because Lunar Vision is gone? No.
Okay. So still trash in Arena. Cool. Alright, so the next card, again, some more good artwork. Forest Guide, which is 4 mana. I've got to give them props, okay? I really love the artwork in this expansion.
Does look nice.
At the end of your turn, both players draw a card. 4 mana, 1/6. Interesting. Alice, what do you think?
I think it's like absolute trash. So
Why'd you
there's
pick
like
that?
4 mana 1/6. Battle Cry, both players don't draw a card. You like maybe consider it like a hard maybe. But like first off, the stat line is like complete garbage. And then second, since it's at the end of your turn, your opponent gets to play with the cards first. So like you're giving them an advantage by playing a shitty minion. Like, go figure. I don't know, it's like all 1-star. Not the best.
Do you see any way that this card can be salvaged, Corbett?
Not particularly. I'm very glad you mentioned the artwork because I think that's about where the relevance for this card ends. In terms of the playability and the competitive viability, I really don't. I really don't see this seeing much play. I think this is one of the cards that really demonstrates kind of the failure of this slight little push of an archetype that Blizzard had. Again, like Alice said, there are issues with giving your opponent the initiative with this kind of card. This stat line isn't threatening enough in any way. And yeah, I just can't really imagine that this sees play. I've tried, but I couldn't, and I gave it 1 star.
That's fair. And then in Arena, this is
Great artwork though.
We'll give it 5 for artwork, 1 for playability. In Arena, this is trash, right?
This is trash. Don't ever pick this card.
Cool. I think we can move on to.
I will make the comparison to Jeeves because this kind of looks like Jeeves, but like Jeeves at least would, in aggro deck you probably get to draw 3 cards, and then your opponent probably won't get any benefit from Jeeves. But this is like there's none of that, so your opponent always gets a card, and so they always get an extra card than you do. Yeah. So I mean, this is just garbage. Like I don't know what they were thinking when they implemented it.
They were thinking
the fundamental difference with the Jeeves is that in order to get an advantage or like to get the benefit from it, they have to let you double dip. Like your opponent.
I'll tell you what this card is used for. It's used for people completing quests.
True.
You put it in your druid and your friend gets to draw a card. That's the only way it gets used.
So he gets to play 25 Divine Shield.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
God bless you, Blizzard, thinking about our quests. Alright, let's go to Witching Hour. Summon a random friendly beast minion that died this game. I'm actually going to give this over to Fuel, who's just joined us. If you're there, Fuel.
Alright, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Alright, great. What's going on?
It's good to see you, man. I feel like I should introduce you. So Fuel is a longtime player of the game, is responsible for innovating a lot of decks, including Classic Handlock and a couple of other decks as well. Amazing accuracy when it comes to predicting the viability of cards. He has a very good statistical approach to rating these cards, so I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say. So what do you think about Witching Hour?
Witching Hour. That's the summon a beast that's died, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely a card to keep an eye on. It's one of those cards with extremely high potential upside, sort of in the vein of Eternal Servitude or Possessed Lackey. Anything where you can cheat out a potentially massive thing for 3 mana is definitely something to keep an eye on. But I'm having trouble seeing a deck that's excited enough about getting a beast out, cheated out somehow. It's just very complicated to get something specifically with the beast tag to die and then not be able to select it back. So I don't know. High potential though, definitely a high upside card to keep an eye on.
Cool. What do you think, Corbett? Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think that any card that has any sort of mana cheating mechanic is something that we have to be, very cognizant of. Those comparisons to Eternal Servitude and anything else like that is really quite crucial, and I think demonstrates the potential of this card. However, as Fuel mentioned, I'm not entirely sure whether we have the fit despite that potential. The main downside currently is that Spreading Plague and Malfurion both summon Beast Scarabs. If those were just normal non-Beast Scarabs, then I think that this could be one of the best cards in the set. But currently, the way Druid is constructed, it's a little bit difficult to see where this fits. It is entirely possible that this card is good enough that it actually justifies the Plague and Malfurion drop. In certain matchups, this can create a very different deck that isn't as situated to go against the token builds and is far better against something more like Priest or other slower passive archetypes with the Charged Devil Saw, and even Carnivorous Cube. So I'm not entirely sure whether there's a fit right now, but much like cards in the past such as Play Dead, I think this card has a lot of upside, and it's something I want to keep an eye on. I gave it three stars, I believe, just because of that. But it wouldn't shock me either way whether this card saw a lot of play or it didn't. I think it's very up in the air and tough to evaluate.
Cool. All right, let's hear about this for Arena. What do you think, Tachii?
For Arena, if people pay attention to other streamers talk about Arena cards, they don't really like this card. But personally, I like the card because right now in Arena, you can kind of draft for synergies, you patch and everything. And there's a lot of 3-mana beasts, neutral beasts that are just super good, like Giant Wasp, Basilisk, and you're not sad if you get any of those for 3 mana. And there's a lot of broken large beasts, Nesting Rock, Giant Mastodon, Violet Worm. There's just a lot of large beasts, and if this cheats out any of those, you're at such a good position. So I think this has a lot of potential to be good. But probably because it's random, so it can't be that high. I would say it's an above average card. I'll just give it a 3.5.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, let's move on to the next card. Bewitched Guardian, which is a taunt battlecry, gain 1 health for each card in your hand, and it's a 4/1. What do you think about this card, Fuel?
Honestly, I think this card's not very good. You have to get 4/9 stats to really make this that exciting, and that means a very full hand, which sometimes you'll have even if you're playing the archetype, but sometimes you won't. And so it's you really, if you compare it to the Druid class card, the 5-mana taunt that can be either a 4/6 or a 4/4 charger, those taunt stats really aren't getting it done right now. So this needs to be quite a bit bigger for the downside of being able to be silenced and being less consistent to play. And I just don't see that happening often enough to justify this card, even in hand Druid.
That's fair. What do you think, Alice?
Yeah, I agree. It's like Twilight Drake with taunt, except it's not a dragon. If you draw Witchwood Apple on 2, it's okay. If you don't, it's really, really bad. So yeah, that's about it. It's not a very good card, even in the archetype it's built for.
Cool. And then in Arena, this is trash, so I guess we can just skip this one?
I mean, Twilight Drake in Arena is average. It's an average card. But since this have taunt, in Arena right now, card has taunt, it's actually pretty good. Above average if it has taunt, even if it's a bad taunt, like Squirming Tentacle. So it's tough to evaluate because we don't know how much cards Druid is going to have in their hand by turn 5. Because a 5-mana 4/6 with taunt, that's actually above average in Arena. So if it can get a 4/6, that's good. I'll take it.
And you're also going to have Discover cards as well, so there is potential for that to happen.
Yeah, so I'm optimistic with this card, so I'm going to give it a 3.5.
That's pretty good. Cool. Alright, let's move to the next card. We've got Gloom Stag, which is a 5-mana 2/6 taunt battlecry. If your deck has only odd cards, gain +2/+2. What do you think about this, Corbett?
Well, I think it's very funny that Fuel mentioned the Bewitched Guardian needed to be a 4/9. And then we look at this card, and it's a 4/8. And that's if we're absolutely gimping our deck. The reward just isn't there. The desire to play odd Druid isn't there. This card will see no play. I don't think that this isn't what Druid needed if they wanted to really push this archetype. And so, yeah, it's just pretty much as simple as that. I don't think the reward's big enough. I don't think the stat line is correct for that kind of build. I think that if we were going to go that route, we wanted something much more aggressive. And so I don't really see this. I think this is the last time we see this card right now.
Okay. What do you think, Alice? Do you agree?
Yeah, it's like a really big bot. It's like very cost effective for what it does, but like you're sacrificing a bunch. You can't play Wild Growth, you can't play Wrath, you can't play Swipe, you can't play Plague or UI. Those are like really, really good cards. I'd rather play those than have a 4/8 on.
Absolutely. An Arena, you're not going to get this off, presumably, so unless you're really good at drafting.
Well, odd and even cards are just not going to be in Arena. They announced that, so I'm just not going to rate this card.
Cool. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Whispering Woods. Summon a 1/1 Wisp for each card in your hand, and it's 4 mana. Fuel. Does this see play?
I think it does. I think this card's actually quite underrated at the moment. Not that I know exactly what Reddit thinks of it, but I think it's I think it's could be quite strong. The stats are there, right? If you have 6 cards in hand, which isn't even that hard if you're not playing Hand Druid, you're summoning 6 dudes, which is quite reasonable, if not strong. So, and it'll be extremely consistent if you are playing a Hand Druid archetype. So, yeah, I think this card's quite powerful and should see some play. If the archetype proves terrible, maybe not. But yeah, I think it's a solid card and a reasonable incentive to try that archetype.
So what would that be, like a mid-range token deck?
Hard to say. You can play Mountain Giants and this card, maybe Twilight Drakes. So you could play, and then you could maybe play, but then you could also have, right, you have branching paths to synergize with this. You could play Power of the Wild, potentially Savage Roar. So there are, the synergies are there, and the stats are there. So yeah, I think this card is definitely worth experimenting with, for sure.
What do you think, Corbett?
Much like Ferocious Howl, I think this is a card that is great because we don't actually have to play it in Hand Druid. We can play it in a normal Druid. The play pattern just makes a lot of sense. Like if you're on coin, for example, we go like, turn 1 pass, turn 2 Wild Growth. That means we're summoning 5 Wisps on turn 4, all for 4 mana. It's just so often that Druid has at least 4 cards in hand, or at least 5 cards in hand. And I think that, this really is kind of a sleeper of the set. I think that's a lot better than what I've been reading elsewhere. I think it's possibly the card most likely to see play from Druid from this set, which isn't saying very much, but at the same time, kind of gives an indicator. I believe I gave it 3 stars, and I was borderline on 4. I think this can see play, and this can, this continue to help alleviate pressure against any of those aggressive decks, whilst also perhaps being able to threaten things with that Savage Roar, Branching Paths, Power of the Wild type archetype that Fuel was talking about.
Cool. I think this card is, I guess you have to compare it to Forbidden Summoning, whatever the Warlock one is.
Ritual.
Forbidden Ritual, yeah. But it's a better version in Druid, I'd say. What do you think in Arena, Tachii?
It looks like an average card in Arena because oftentimes by turn 4, because there's a lot of times I remember when I played Twilight Drake, it's just a 4 mana 4/5, so this is just gonna summon 4 Wisps, and then it's kind of slightly below average, right? Because on 4 you rather play, a 4 mana 4/5 or 4 mana 5/4, so this has to summon 5 Wisps to be good. By the way, though, I really like the art of this card. I'm not saying the card is bad, but I really like the art.
We're all art enthusiasts today.
It looks like an average card to me. Also, you have to keep in mind, cards like Mark of the Lotus is rotating out of standard, so yeah. Just looks like an average to below average card, so I'm like on the fence, 3 out of 5.
Cool. Alright, let's move on to the next card. Interesting effect. Duskfallen Aviana, 5 mana, 3/7. On each player's turn, the first card played costs 0. Alice, what do you think about this card?
I think this is like the least playable Druid legendary they've printed so far.
Oh boy. Why'd you say that?
It's literally worse than Jungle Giants. Yeah, so like just like Forest Guide, your opponent gets the gets like the benefit from it first. So if they're an aggressive deck, they play Terran for 0 mana and then destroy you. And if they're like a slow deck, they play I don't know, Rin or like Azari for 0 mana and destroy you. And if they're a mid-range deck, they do something else broken for 0 mana and then like have a full turn. And it's really bad. Like there's like a hypothetical metagame where like a 5 mana 7 creature dude can't get removed with like a full 10 mana plus your turn, and like then maybe it's okay. I don't know. I'd give this like a 1 star in any case.
Fuel and Corbett, do either of you have any potential you see in this card, or?
No, the payoff's just so low, right? Even if you get it to stick, and your opponent gets relatively little value off of it, you still aren't. You're not just winning the game automatically, right? Because you can't consistently say, "Oh, I'm going to have this survive," and then Malagos and kill them, right? You can't rely on that. So you have to be just playing it for value, and that just does not feel like a big enough payoff for the massive risk it entails. I'd rather play Temporis than this card.
Oh wow.
Temporis is good in combo trees.
Jesus.
But right, because Temporis, at least you're guaranteed the effect, even if it is overall more beneficial for your opponent. Whereas this, your opponent might get the benefit and then you still don't get value. So I see no use for this card.
All right, that's fair. Arena, I guess, is also
Total trash. Total trash. If it at least had a reasonable stat line, like maybe a 5 mana 4/7 or 5 mana 4/6, which they will never do because they have to consider constructed, then it might not. It might be a 1.5 instead of like a 0. But this card is literally 0. It's like if you play it, you're asking yourself to lose. Basically, you're just like, lucky. I'm feeling good today. You know, I already have like 11. I'm just gonna let the guy win. So don't pick this card.
You wouldn't play this as like a 5 mana 10/10 and constructed.
This would be a -1 out of.
All right, I think we can move on to the next card then. We have Splintergraft. 8 mana 8/8. Choose a friendly minion and add a 10/10 copy to your hand that costs 10. Corbett, what do you think about this card?
I just don't think the potential upside is there in terms of you know, like the cards that we want to be hitting with this. We want to be hitting things like Arcane Tyrant, anything else that we can like cheat out, or just really to take advantage of that. Because if we can't cheat out something, then this is glacially slow. And the problem is that kind of combo really requires like an Arcane Tyrant, or I've seen people mention Happy Ghoul, to stick on the board, and that's like a pretty difficult ask when we start getting up to that 8 mana type range. So I think this card is just too slow. I don't think it has the available tools really to take full advantage of this type of effect. And I really don't see it seeing play. So I gave it 1 star, but it's almost something to keep an eye on moving forward.
Okay. Fuel and Alice, do you see anything different with this card, or do you think that covers
honestly,
it?
like, I would say it's a meme, but like I just thought of like Coom and Aviana in Wild, and there's probably a really dank meme combo you can do there. I don't know for sure. Yeah. I don't know for sure, but like there probably is something.
Yeah, I think this card's a 2. I think it's because the upside is there. If you can land it on a Mountain Giant, which costs 2 less when it starts getting its discounts, or an Arcane Tyrant, or something along those lines, it is extremely powerful. but the issue is you can't. None of those cards can you can't play the card and then copy it the same turn. It can only be copied the turn after, right? So you have to play a 5-mana spell to get out Arcane Tyrant, and that doesn't leave you mana for Splinter Graft, and the cheapest giant can get is 3. So the potential for one turn consistency just isn't there. So I think it's going to be too hard to pull off. But the power's there if you can.
Okay. And for Arena, what do you think, Tachii?
For Arena, this looks like an average card. Maybe slightly below average. It depends on how fast the meta is going to be. We can't make any guesses on that right now. But if this activates on any taunt minion, you're looking at a 10 mana 10/10 taunt, which is pretty good in Arena because in Arena we just don't have that much removals. So I would say this is like an average to maybe above average card because it just has the potential to win on the spot if it gets a taunt. So I'm gonna give it like a 3.33 out of 5.
Very specific.
Yeah. I think this card's actually quite good in Arena. Obviously not for every draft, but if you need a finisher, this card has just a ton of stats. Think how powerful Pyros is in Arena. I mean, obviously you can't play this on 2 and 6, but it is a lot of value for one card, which Arena decks sometimes need to close out the game. So I think it's quite good.
Yeah, it's just like in Arena for Druid, there's like you're not missing out on big minions. There's a lot of big dudes.
That's true.
Take, so.
If you need a big minion, this is maybe one of your best options, but
yeah,
it does have some competition.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so that's Druid completed. Do we want to give our best Druid card now, or do we kind of want to wait until the end of this stream and start saying what our favorite cards are? What do you guys think?
Maybe we can wait.
Fine, we'll wait. All right, so next class is going to be Hunter.
PogChamp.
And we get a nice card to look at first. It's Hunting Mastiff. Alice, I'm going to have you talk us through this card. 2 mana 2/2 Echo Rush. And
It's a 2 mana 2/1.
Yeah.
So I don't really like this card. So like all the other Echo cards, it's like inefficient for its base cost, and then it makes up for it in flexibility. And I don't think that's going to work out like too well for most of the Echo cards that have been printed or are going to be printed. The only one I can see working is the Warrior one, because it goes in a control Warrior archetype where you float a lot of mana naturally. Whereas in Hunter, like the class really can't afford to float mana. You play cards like Tracking to fill out your curve as best as you can, and like even floating 1 or 2 can potentially make you lose a game. And like Hunting Mastiff is really, really inefficient at like what it's trying to do. So like ideally you just play Unleash instead of this, or nothing. I don't know. I don't really like it.
Fair. John, I've seen you join us now, so I'm going to let you also
Yes.
chime in on this.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, A, it's not very efficient, and B, it can't actually go face.
Yeah.
We need stuff to close up the game in Hunter. I mean, if it won face, it'd be great, but, like, it kind of trades into minions, which you already have, like, cards that do that pretty well. Like, I'd rather play Crushing Walls than this, honestly. Like, it's actually going to kill 2 things later in the game. It doesn't fit in Spell Hunter, obviously. It doesn't fit in Face Hunter, and I don't really think it fits in Mid-Range Hunter. It's just not great. So.
Okay. What about in Arena, Tachii?
In Arena, mostly the Echo cards are going to be good in Arena because, we don't have that many removals. So I would say just on the face value, this should be like an above average card in Arena. But the problem with Arena right now is you get these kind of tier system. It depends on where this card gets offered, right? Because it's like if this gets offered in the same level as Flanking Strike, you always take Flanking Strike. You'll not take this. You just take Flanking Strike. So this card might never see play, or it might see tons of play depending on where it is in Arena. So it's hard to evaluate for me for this card, but I'll say it's like above average. So I'm gonna give it like a.
Okay, that's pretty good. All right, let's move on to the next card. 4 mana, Dire Frenzy. Give a beast +3/+3 and shuffle 3 copies into your deck with +3/+3. Corbett, what do you think about this card?
I'm not super into this card. The obvious comparison to make is the Feldori Strider from Rogue, just in terms of their shuffle and the similar stat line, especially if we hit a cheap beast. But I don't think Hunter's the right class for this type of card. I don't think that we have the draw power to really make use of this. I can't really picture the kind of deck itself that would want to be using
Quest
this.
Hunter.
Quest Hunter, exactly. So a deck that won't exist. But no. I did give some thought to the idea of hitting stone to hitting the boar, and all of a sudden you've got these 1 mana 4/4 charges. But yeah, just that lack of draw power is going to be a real issue, and the reward isn't really that great for cards that situationally aren't good by themselves. So yeah, I'm not really into this card, but it made me think about it a little bit. But I don't think this is play.
Yeah. One thing to note with this is Hunter is actually the single best tutoring class. They have between Stitch Tracker, which should, as I understand it, pull you a buffed copy. They have Tolvir Stone Warden, assuming you're hitting, say, Stone Tusk Boar for the theoretical boar control hunter. And they have, as well, they have tracking, and now there's the new card, Witchwood Piper, which will always pull the 1-drop if you've shuffled that in. So there is actually a lot of tutor potential in Hunter specifically to get these buffed charge minions back. That said, that's a lot of investment for a medium payoff. So yeah, I do think this card is generally overrated, especially if you're not going into a full build around, and then in that case, I'm not sure the payoff's there.
Very fair. Tachii, what about in Arena?
In Arena, I would say this is like below average, just because if it's not a beast, you can't even play this card. This is basically useless. So, on average, in an Arena deck, even considering Hunters, you get like maybe 5 beasts, right? So it's like if this card is unplayable and it's stuck in your hand as a Hunter in Arena, it is terrible. And even when it activates, it's kind of like a meh Blessing of Kings, right? Blessing of Kings is a good card in Arena. So this card can never be better than average, but the times that you're not going to be able to activate this at all, it's going to be quite poor. So I'm going to give it like a 2 out of 5.
Very fair. All right, let's move on to the next card. Vile Brood Skitterer, 5 mana 1/3, Poisonous and Rush. I think they likened it to Assassinate on the reveal stream. What do you think about this SMOrc?
Yeah, I mean, Assassinate's a unplayable card. I really don't see this seeing play anyway. Plus, Assassinate can hit cards behind taunt. This cannot. The 3 health doesn't really matter since you're going to be hitting stuff with more than 3 attack. It's just really not good. We have we have Deadly Shot. Like, that's 3 mana. It hits a random target, but like if they have a bid thin on the board, it's probably the only minion they have on the board anyway. Like, we can Deadly Shot I don't know, Lichkin or whatever. We don't want to pay 5 mana to kill it. It's just bad. Good for Retsar though. You can make big poisonous beasts. But yeah, it's bad on its own.
That's fair.
I don't think this is even good for Deathstalker Rexar. The mana cost is incredible. So you're basically gonna, whatever your other half is gonna be, that's essentially just gonna add extra cost to your now Assassinate. So it's just gonna be like a 7 mana Assassinate instead. Because the stats on this are so bad.
So this is like 1 out of 5, we're saying.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Arena, does this see any play?
I actually really like this card, because Hunters right now they have Crushing Wall, Deadly Shot, and Hunter's Mark. You can't really play around Hunter's Mark, but usually Hunter's Mark they require another card, to be good in Arena, and this is like a hard removal that doesn't have any conditions, right? Like it obviously can't go past taunt, but in most situations you're probably gonna use this to kill big dude anyway. In Arena, I would say this is actually pretty good. It could kill 2 attack minions, and it would survive, and that would be really good too. So I actually really like this card. I'm willing to give this a 4 out of 5.
Oh,
Because you have to
wow.
remember in Arena, hard removals are just super premium. Whereas, in Constructed, you don't get to see any of them because it's too slow. So I'm willing to give this a 4 out of 5. I think this card is really good. So
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I didn't expect that. All right, let's move on to the next card, which is Duskhaven Hunter. 3 mana, 2/5 stealth. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. Corbett, what do you think of this card?
Well, with this card, I think that people look at it and they think, oh, a 3 mana 5/2 with stealth, that could be really good. Or, maybe a 2/5 with stealth, that can also be really good. But I don't think they're evaluating the card as what if it's the wrong one at the wrong time? And it kind of puts you in this really poor position in trapping you into playing cards that you might not really want, sort of thing. That is to say, like, this isn't flexibility. This is like pigeonholing you into a certain line of play. The lack of beast tag makes it probably not worthwhile in that sort of mid-range hunter, where something like Jungle Panther doesn't particularly see play. Although something to mention is that because of the lack of beast tag, it means that we can fit it into something like a Katharina hunter, which is something that will probably see play moving forward. I don't think it's good enough. I think that Blizzard has correctly identified the swapping mechanic as being a net negative, and they've generally tried to overstack cards to compensate, but I don't think they've done enough for this particular card. So I don't really see it making too much of an impact at all.
Cool. Alice, what do you think? Do you agree?
Okay, so I think like this particular card isn't like very good, but there's something else to talk about here. So over the past few days I've been playing like Face Hunter, like the very, very old one, like a pair of Wolf Riders and everything. And it's like surprisingly close versus Warlock. Like you get there pretty often. And, like especially with Mistress of Mixtures leaving, I think that's like one of the few decks that can potentially beat that like very consistently. And another card that's going to be printed to support that is like Baku, the odd thing where you upgrade your hero power, and it lets you not play Beast Synergy in Crackling Razormaw and Houndmaster, which means that cards like this and Wolf Rider get a lot better. So I don't know if this like particular card will see play in that deck, but maybe like that's the one deck it potentially could see play in, because like a 5/2 stealth guy is always good. I don't know. It's surprisingly close. I think
That's pretty
like closer
interesting.
than it seems.
What do you think in Arena, Tachii?
Fairly average card in Arena. It kind of sucks. Like if you keep this in your opening hand, it's just gonna be a 3 mana 2/5 on turn 3. So, I mean that like 3 mana 2/5 in Arena for a hunter, I would say that's kind of below average.
I mean, that's carry-on grub, I guess, right?
Yeah, but at least that has a beast tag, right? And then you're super scared if he follows up with Houndmaster. So there's barely any buffs in Hunter to support the stealth mechanic. So it's like it doesn't really matter if it's a 3 mana 2/5 with stealth or if it doesn't have stealth. Like I'd rather have the beast tag. But the 5/2 is good. It can probably kill most 4-drops. So, but since you can't keep it in your opening hand, I'm just gonna say it's an average card in Arena. It's probably a bit below average because it's gonna be clunky to play, like Corbett mentioned. So I'm probably gonna give this like a 2.5 out of 5.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next card. 4 mana Wing Blast. I love this card. Best like artwork since we're on that theme today. Deal 4 damage to a minion. If a minion died this turn, this costs 1. Fuel, what do you think about this card?
Oh, I think it's quite good. I don't know that it's quite the powerhouse that some people seem to think it is, but I do think it's certainly very strong. The Hunter is, of course, a board-centric, early game focused class almost all the time, and this does play well into that, where you say on turn 4, right? You have lots of 3-cost cards in Hunter, so on turn 4 you're playing a 3-cost card, trading with a minion already on board, or using a weapon to kill something, and then killing something else with this to maintain your tempo on the board and solidify your position. So I do think it's quite strong. 1 mana, deal 4 is obviously quite good, and there's not a ton of competition in the 4 slot. And on top of that, 4 damage is something that the Hunter has traditionally struggled with. They can deal 3, sometimes they can deal 5, but dealing 4 is not always easy for them. So I do think this card's quite good.
Cool. What do you think, SMOrc? Do you agree?
I actually don't. When I look at this card, you can compare it to something like Hunter's Mark. I think Dodge and Frozen made the same point, but
Yeah.
like a lot of times as Hunter, you're gonna have stuff that deals 1 damage anyway. We play Candle Shot. We get that somewhat commonly. We have a bunch of small attack minions, so like it functions a lot of the times the same as Hunter's Mark. You know, instead of dealing 4 to him, we might have to trade off a 1 attack minion anyway, just for free, just so we get the effect. And Hunter's Mark does the same thing. So I feel like it's like a lot less versatile. For example, it's a lot worse versus Warlock, which is going to be very common. So I don't really think it's that good. You don't play it in Face Hunter because it doesn't really go face, and it's just kind of underwhelming, especially versus a deck that doesn't play a lot of minions. In mid-range Hunter, it might fit, but even then it competes with Flanking Strike, which is pretty good, and this doesn't make a minion. So I'm really not sure. I'd probably give it a 2, honestly. I don't think it's fantastic.
Okay, that's fair. Tachii, let's hear about Arena.
In Arena, I would say this is above average. I would actually give this like a 4 out of 5. And one of the reasons is that for Hunters, there's a lot of cards that deal 3 damage. So Eagle Horn Bow, Flanking Strike, and there's not a lot of cards that deal 4 damage. Like Animal Companion, you have to get charged. So on turn 4, you know, a Hunter could just play like a good stuff on turn 3, and then they just keep removing your stuff while their minion keep going face, and just win in the end with hero power. So for 4 mana, deal 4 in Arena, that's already okay. It's average. Like people would draft this card, and if it ever gets to 1 mana, deal 4, that's just such tempo gaming Arena that for a class that, you know, it just, once it gets like a tempo advantage on board, it's like so hard for you to get back unless you have like multiple board players. So for Arena, this is just a really solid card for us.
That's good to hear, because I plan to be playing Arena more. Alright, moving on to the next card, Carry On Drake, which is a 5 mana 3/7 dragon. Battle Cry, if a minion died this turn, gain Poisonous. Alice, let's hear about this.
And why do I get all the garbage?
I'm giving you it because it's dragon and I know you like dragons.
Come on, man. Bad. Okay, so
Can we play Dragon Hunter? Is that a thing?
I think it might be. We'll get to that later if we have time. This card's really bad. It's like Myexna. It costs 1 mana less. But like, it's still bad because Myexna is really bad. It would see play at 5 mana, and this doesn't either. Conditional as well. Like, it's real bad.
What do you think, Corbett? Do you agree?
I'm a little bit higher on it. I think it's at least solid. The dragon tag is something that I don't think is particularly relevant. I don't think we were given the correct tools for some sort of dragon, menagerie hunter. for this expansion. But the stat line isn't atrocious. The effect is a little difficult, likely to trigger in the same vein that we were talking about Wing Blast. In that it's not as easy probably to trigger as you can imagine for Hunter in this upcoming metagame. I think it's okay, but I really don't see a home for it. I don't think it's playable in Constructed, but maybe in Arena. I think definitely in Arena we could be talking.
Sounds good. What do you think, Tachii?
Yeah, this looks obviously just like an arena card. The arena card, and I would say this is a pretty good arena card because on turn 5, like even if you played this naked 5 mana 3/7, it's like Knuckles. It passes the vanilla test, right? So 3 attack is a bit low, but it's hard for the opponent to actually kill this thing, and the thing can just keep going face for a hunter. And when it gains poisonous, it's like so good because it could kill every 5-drop and live, except for like a few exceptions. And it can contest most 6-drops and still live. So in Arena, this card is like nuts for the battle cry. So I would give it a 4 out of 5. I think we're going to be able to trigger this battle cry pretty often in Arena. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next card. 4 mana, 2/4 Toxmonger. Whenever you play a 1-cost minion, give it poisonous. Fuel, tell me why Quest Hunter is going to be amazing this season.
Quest Hunter is going to be amazing this season because no one will see it coming because there's no reason to play it. Even in my theoretical board control Hunter deck with running a bunch of Stone Tusk boards, it's still not making the cut. I think this card is too slow, too hard to pull off, and too little upside.
Cool. What do you think, John? Do you agree?
Yeah, it's just bad. It says play as well, so it doesn't work with like Unleash the Hounds, which is really unfortunate. So it's just unplayable.
All right, Tachii in Arena, do you think that gets saved at all? Nope. I'm not sure if Tachi's here right now.
Wait, okay. I went to pee, but I don't know what other people said about this card. The Arena is really crap.
Okay.
It's like it's close to a 0, but it still has stats, I guess. So I'll give it like a 1 out of 5. Don't ever depend on this card activating. So yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next card then. 2 mana Rat Trap. It's a secret. After your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, summon a 6/6 rat. Alice, I want to hear your thoughts.
Why do I have to get all the garbage, man? Like every card so far has been unplayable.
Oh, I don't think any of the cards so far have been too good.
I mean, I don't know, some of them have been okay. Like the Wisps one was okay.
Yeah, but in Hunter though.
So okay. Imagine like the worst trap possible. There's a 2 mana secret, do nothing, right? That's like the worst possible trap. Without being negative. So this is that, right? this is that.
Oh.
Yeah.
You get to counter Miracle Rogue though. If that ever exists again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the common and depressive ladder deck everyone's complaining about in 2014.
SMOrc, what do you think about this card?
Yeah, it's bad. Even versus Miracle Road, it's bad. Like, if you play it on the auction, stop it. Like, I don't know why you're playing this card. It's unfortunate.
It's true. And then in Arena, you're not really expecting your opponent to play 3 cards in a turn, so what do you think, Tachii?
2 mana, do nothing, it's shit. And like, I mean, there is a world where you're at a 0-2 game, you're facing the worst player ever, who happens to draft like an aggro game, and you get this on like turn 4 or something, then you probably win. So If that ever happens, put it on Trojan or something, man. Like,
Yeah.
but other than that,
That's the
it's
money shot
too-
right there.
Other than that, it's 2 mana, do nothing. Don't ever pick this card. Let's go to the next card.
All right, next card. And we're going to start off this one with Fuel. Let us know what you think of this card. Houndmaster Shore, 4 mana, 3/6. Your other minions have Rush.
I think this card's unplayable. Just kidding. This card's really good. It's got solid stats and a very high upside. The Hunter likes tokeny, death rattly stuff. Maybe losing out a little bit of that with this rotation, so it might not be quite as consistent. But a big reason that you played Tundra Rhino was to get, just to hit something with your rat pack and then hit something else with the rats that come out. So it's I think this card's quite good. It fills a minion slot that's not contested and has a solid upside and a sticky body. I don't see much wrong with this card. It's not great in the truest of hunter decks, which aim only for the face, but for a more mid-rangey style, it's very powerful.
Cool. What do you think, Corbett? Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think that this card is very solid, and we're probably going to be seeing a fair amount of it in whatever the if we do see that Katharina type deck, especially, not having the beast tag is a real positive in that kind of archetype. Being able to threaten this going into the Spellstone is quite huge against any sort of minion base deck. So something like Paladin, you play this on 4, and they're essentially forced to trade in. Like, they're probably terrified of this card, as they should be. Obviously, I'm not entirely sure whether it sees play in that sort of highly aggressive hunter archetype, where we are looking more for that base synergy and we are looking more to go face. But no, I think this is very good. I think it's a little bit overrated based on what I've seen. A lot of like 5 stars and that kind of thing. I don't think it's quite that good, but I think it's definitely one of the best cards that our Hunter got, and it'll be seeing a fair amount of play in whatever secret build, especially that people use.
Cool. Do we have any other points that we'd like to make on this card, or shall we move to Arena? Silence beckons. Okay, let's go to Arena.
Arena it is. Yep, Arena.
Well, Arena, this is probably my first 5 out of 5 for the expansion. Because 4 mana 3/6, it's so hard to remove in Arena to remove a 4 mana 3/6. So it's like this effect will almost always go off, right? So then on turn 5, you get a rush minion to kill one of their minions, and then this thing is still alive. So, oh my god. So every turn you're getting rush minions while this thing keeps going face. So that is insane. Like, you could just win on the spot if you drop this on turn 4 and they can't get rid of it the next turn. So, and there's like no downside. You could play this in the later turn with another minion, like a poisonous minion. You play this on turn 7 with a Basilisk. It kills a big ass taunt. You just win the game there. So it's like, it's good on turn 4. It's good at any point of the game. It's a 5 out of 5. Let's move on.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Alright, the next card is PogChamp Dragon Hunter. 10 mana 8/8 Emeris. Battlecry, double the attack and health of all minions in your hand. John, what do you think of this card?
Yeah. Playing a 10 mana card in Hearthstone in general is ambitious unless it has like a super immediate impact on the board. Like a lot of the Death Knights, specifically Gul'dan, it does something. It summons a lot of dudes. This really doesn't, and we're playing Hunter, a class that wants to go fast and kill the opponent. This doesn't really do either. If there's some type of funky dragon control hunter, it probably plays this, but I don't see that deck working, so this card's just bad.
What do you think, Fuel? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. There are so few minions that truly benefit from this. The only scenario I could come up with was if you're running stuff like Death Lords in Wild, right, where you can turn them into 16 health taunts that you can drop multiple of the next turn to help you come back from this huge deficit you've built for yourself by playing this card. Then there may be some upside, but it's an extremely ambitious strategy for when usually just killing your opponent is far more effective and consistent. But it's a fun card to to really just try and build something awesome with. So there's that.
Yeah. And then for Arena, the buff's probably overkill. What do you think?
Yeah, in Arena, you never want to play a 10 mana card for Hunter. And a lot of the times by turn 10, and you have to play like a 10 mana card, you likely don't even have any minions in your hand. So this is like a 10 mana 8/8. I mean, the dude's Ultra Sword could probably just eat this thing. Ultra low. So it's like, what I will say, the application for this card is actually when it comes out of a Bone Drake. If it's like, a slow game in a control game in Arena, like maybe a Mage versus a Priest or whatever, and then one of them gets a Bone Drake, gets this card, and he plays this on turn 10, it could be game winning. But that's like the only application for it. I think it's just too slow. So I'm going to say it's below average, 2.5 out of 5.
Cool. So in that case, I think we can move on from Hunter onto our next class, Mage. The first card we have here is Black Cat, 3 mana 3/3 spell damage +1. Battlecry, if your deck has only odd cost cards, draw a card. Alice, what do you think?
Man, all the garbage. Okay, so
Hey, this one's not that bad.
yeah, I mean it is. Okay, so like obviously this card's like really good on paper. It's a 3 mana 3/3 Azure Drake. That's like entirely insane. But you look at what you're sacrificing, at what you're getting. So like you can't play Frostbolt, Glyph, Fireball, Meteor, Polymorph. Like all the best mage cards are even costed. Like the only saving grace is like Flame Strike and Frostlit Jaina. And I can't imagine a 30 card list with like 30 good cards in it. It runs this. I don't think like this on its own is enough to salvage it. Like dealing 2 a turn with your ping is okay. It's not really that great. I think it's bad.
What do you think, Corbett? Orpheal, if you want to take this field.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's actually just a side note. But the developers did mention that that all of the cards printed that aren't the 2 legendaries, Baku and Greymane, that are specific to an odd or an even type archetype, are meant to encourage you to play the other side that you would otherwise never consider in that class.
Yeah.
So giving up evens in Mage, or all your AoE in Shaman, the cards are printed to say, well, what the heck, why not try it anyway? You get to use this powerful card. So all of those decks will be extremely ambitious to make because they were intended to encourage you to do something that you would otherwise never have any reason to try.
Right. Makes sense. They all are kind of like that.
Does this card ever see play just as a 3/3 with spell damage? Does anyone think?
It's pure didn't see play.
Okay.
There's a 3 mana 3/3 mech with spell damage +1.
Yeah, that's true,
Never saw
actually.
play.
Cool. So in that case, we can move on to this card for Arena.
It's not going to be an Arena.
It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
because it's an odd cost card. All right, on to the next card. Thank you guys. You guys are helping me remember that. So the next card is Vex Crow, 4 mana 3/3. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a random 2-cost minion. Corbett, I'm going to let you cover this card.
Oh, I was so excited for this card. I think this was the 2nd or 3rd Mage card revealed. And, you know, Mage is kind of going to be going through a bit of a shift with a lot of its secret package disappearing. So I was very into this card. I thought we were going to be getting these awesome cheap Mage spells. And we didn't. We didn't get any of that. And it's very difficult to see at home now. And that's kind of frustrating. Because I think that if this card manages to hit one spell, you know, it's like decent. In a Warlock metagame, maybe not amazing, but it's decent. And if it hits 2 or more, then, you know, we can really start talking into something that's a little bit build around. But we didn't get those right cards, and I don't think this is the way that Mage wants to go with things like Mirror Image and Arcane Missiles and all that kind of stuff, especially in a Warlock type of metagame. And so I don't really see this making too much of a splash, but I think it's something to keep an eye out moving forward in the future. It's one of those cards, but yeah.
See, I actually disagree. I don't think you would even play this card in like the classic tempo Mage with Flame Wakers and Sorcerer's Apprentices. It's so bad on curve, and in that deck you can only save your spells for certain power turns, and I don't think the payoff is high enough for this versus, say, you have to hit maybe 3 minions to really make it better than a Violet Teacher, maybe 2, maybe 3, and that's fairly ambitious when you're taking away from your other spell synergies. And then in other turns, if you ever have to play this naked, it's abysmal. So I actually don't think this card's very good in general.
Oh, interesting. Alice and John, do you have anything that you'd like to add on this card?
No, I agree with what was said there.
I'd like to compare it to a Flame Waker. That card's like really, really good because it advances your board position and like makes their board worse, which this doesn't do. It also costs 1 less mana and is like okay on curve. And like if you go Sorcerers on 2, Flame Waker on 3, and like play a spell, it's likely to stick for another turn. And this like never sticks. It's really bad.
That's fair. All right, what about in, dare I say, Arena, Tachii?
First, I would say this is like an Arena card to begin with. Like, I don't know what. Like, this will never see play in Construct. I'm not an expert, but this just looks so bad. In Arena, it's hard to about it. You can't play this on curve, or if you do play this on curve, on turn 5 you have to play a spell, and there's not that many good spells on turn 5. So I would say this is actually below average. It's kind of annoying, but I really don't like cards that need another card in your hand to be good. So I would say this is like a 2.5 out of 5. Yeah.
Okay.
I do like this card because bad players are gonna play this on turn 4, and you're just gonna eat this card, and then they're gonna be sad, and so yeah.
All right, I think we can move on then. So the next card we're going to look at is Shatter 2.0. Sorry, that's Snap Freeze. Freeze a minion. If it's already frozen, destroy it. Is Shatter Control Mage going to be a thing, Alice?
All the garbage, man. Come on. No, it's not. It's like, I mean, okay, so
Feels bad,
Shatter
man.
is like surprisingly borderline playable in that one elemental mage deck. I think like this might see like meme play in something like that. I don't know, it's kind of bad. Like since Frosted Jaina was printed, you don't really want Shatter as like a tempo-based removal spell. It's like Polymorph is like way better. This never sees play.
What do you think, John? Oh, is John not here?
Oh, John's muted.
Ah.
Yeah, he's out for
Sorry. Yeah, I don't think this card is great. Yeah, but Shatter did see play in Elemental Mage, but this really isn't that much better than Shatter. Like, freezing a minion is kind of whatever. Spending 2 mana to do that is not great. It doesn't really fit into even Mage, since you actually need Glacial Shard for it to be any amount of playable. So it's just not good.
Cool. What about in Arena, Tachii?
Shatter is. I mean, if you have like maybe 5 freeze effects, like just quadruple blizzard, and like a water elemental, you might pick this card. But in arena, I look at 2 cards in particular: Shatter and Freezing Potion. Both of those cards are like super bad. So this is like, I'm just gonna give it like a 1.5 out of 5.
Okay, cool. Alright, let's move on to the next card. Bonfire Elemental, 5 mana 5/5. If you played an elemental last turn, draw a card. Corbett, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think this card's solid. I mean, it's no Draconid operative, but it's got a just slightly below vanilla stat line. It fills the 5 slot, which has been lacking in this elemental mage deck, where Servant is really not the best card in any elemental deck, really. So I think it's okay. The issue I see more for the deck as a whole, though, is the inability to kind of have the Dusk Breaker type effect in terms of these like minion curve out, spiteful type decks or like elementals. Is that it doesn't have the AoE, and I don't really know. This card in particular isn't going to like make an archetype, right? This is just a solid piece, and I don't really see it making an insane impact, even if it sees a lot of play. I think it's solid. Like I gave it 3 stars, but yeah, it's like decent.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the other thing as well is you can't really play it after like Tar Creeper, so you're kind of forced into playing like water elementals to make it work.
Yeah, but Mage has a lot of the solid like 4-drop elementals. Like we have Manipulator, Water Ellie, the Steam Surger. Like these aren't awful cards. And so it kind of like fills that slot.
What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, I agree. It's an okay card within the archetype, but I don't think it really pushes the archetype anywhere closer to viability than it was. So it's just fine. Nothing really more to add.
Cool. And then Arena, this card's decent. What do you think, Tachii?
Yeah, it's like an average card. I actually talked with another Lord of the Arena Chaotic Vice, and he really likes this card. He's thinking cards are. So I'm just gonna give it like a 3.5. I think the battle cry in Arena, it doesn't happen that often. So, and in Arena, it's like you'd rather have Servant of Kalimos' effect than this effect, because your deck quality is most likely worse than the crazy elementals you could get out of it. So, this is like between an average and above average. So I'm gonna be like 3.33.
Cool. Alright, let's go to the next card. 5 mana 4/4 Curio Collector. Whenever you draw a card, gain +1/+1. So it's kind of the reverse of the what's that 4 mana card?
Daring Reporter.
Yeah, Daring Reporter. Alice, what do you think?
Come on.
Giving you all the fun cards.
Oh my god. Okay, so this is like probably the worst card in the set. I mean, it's worse than Snap Freeze. Borderline. Then it's really bad. It's like completely unplayable in anything ever. I don't know, it's obviously like made to be used with the Book of Spectres, which is like really good card. So you go Curio Collector, Book of Spectres, and turn 7. You make like a 7 mana 7/7 and draw some cards. That's so corner case though. Like it's never happening. This garbage. I get all the garbage, man. This is not okay.
Alright, John, what do you think? Okay. Corbett, what do you think?
Yeah, this is a bad card. I don't see this seeing any play. It's so heavy for that type of effect at 5 mana. With the Book of Spectres and stuff, there was kind of a chance that this type of effect could have been okay, maybe, on a different body at a different mana cost. But no, as it stands, this is just garbage.
Cool. And then Arena, what do you think, Tachii?
Yeah, it's below average. I'm generous. I'm giving it 2.5 out of 5. It's probably worse than that. 2 out of 5. 5 mana 4/4 is terrible. I guess in top deck mode, it's like an average card in top deck mode. So you just divide the fact that it's bad when it's not top decking. And yeah, I'm just gonna give this a 2 out of 5. This looks like purely like a mid card in Arena. Like you never see this in Constructed. So
Cool.
let's move on.
The next card is Cinderstorm. Deal 5 damage randomly split among all enemies. Fuel, what do you think of this card?
I think this card's so bad that we should have given it to Alice. It's this is way worse than the arcane missiles, which is because that costs 1, which is the big reason that it was ever played. This costs, you had 2 extra mana for getting 2 extra missiles. That's so bad. This card is absolutely unplayable.
All right. What about in Arena, Tachii?
2 out of 5. You're gonna pick it if it's between this card and like I don't know.
And like Snap Freeze.
Snap Freeze, yeah. You're probably gonna freeze. So 1.9 out of 5.
All right. The next card is Book of Spectres, and I'm gonna give this to Alice.
Oh, thank you. So this card is really interesting. So, like the first thing that comes to mind is like a really minion-heavy mage deck, and that's currently the Elemental Shell. And like I don't think this card will see play initially because elementals really aren't very good. But this is like a card with a lot of potential. So like a lot of people sort of it was bad immediately because you don't want to discard spells and there's so many good spells in Mage. But like when the effect on the line is like 2 mana draw 3, it's like a really appealing thing to think about. So if you only put 2 Frostbolts, 2 Fireballs, and 2 of these in your deck, on turn 4, if you cast this, you have about a 65% chance to draw 2 cards, about a 20% chance to draw 3 cards, and about 10% chance to draw 1 card or less. So this is like really, really good. Yeah, I think this card is amazing, especially with the Archmage, which is the legendary that we'll look at in a bit.
Yeah, and I guess you could also play. You can still play like Frostlich in that deck as well.
Yeah. It gets you closer to Frostlich because it doesn't discard it, and discards bad cards you get. You like would have drawn on the way there.
Yeah.
You can also play Polymorph instead of Fireball potentially. I don't know, but it's like 4 spells on 2 of these.
Those are really promising stats.
Yeah.
What do you think, Corbett?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this card has massive upside. I think players are a lot of time getting a little distracted, or they're getting a little annoyed by the idea of discarding these cards, and saying like, why would you want to discard your spells? That's your win condition, that's your burn, you need those. Where, it kind of brings up the old comparison of something like Fel Reaver or anything else that discards from the deck, where it's really irrelevant unless we're going to fatigue. Unless we're drawing all our cards, it doesn't really matter. So the expected value of this card is so high in terms of pure cards drawn. You don't even need to go as thin as maybe like 4 spells or 6 spells. Even if you're running, as many as 8 or 9, where we're just hitting at least 2 draws so often, the 2 mana, it's nutty. I can see this seeing play in a variety of Mage decks, whether that's more of an elemental burn type build or just anything like that. I'm not even that opposed to the idea of putting it in a Lunith Mage if you do go for a heavy minion route with the elementals, and you go for a very thin spell package. So I think this card has massive upside. Could see play in a variety of decks, and it wouldn't shock me if 3 expansions from now, this is the type of card that's dictated in the meta. So yeah, I really like it.
Cool. And then in Arena, what do you think of this card, Tachii?
It's hard to evaluate this, because it kind of depends on. I guess like if you have this card early on, you might just draft more minions. But the thing with Arena is usually when you're drawing cards to look for an answer, and most of those answers are spells in Arena. So you don't want to discard those cards. You want to draw into like an answer. So I think in that aspect, Arcane Intellect is just a better card there. And I'm just like, when do you play this? Like, do you play this on like turn 5, and then play this, and then play a 3-drop if you don't have a 3-drop? So I think I'm just gonna say this is like an average card, because some of the mage spells that you keep in Arena, like part of the reason that mage is good in Arena is because there's so many broken mage spells, and if you're discarding that just to get some like vanilla minions, you're probably not happy. So I would say Arcane Intellect is like better than this in Arena. So I'm gonna put it as average. I don't know how.
Okay, cool. In that case, I think we can move on to the next card, which is 4 mana 2/3 Arcane Keysmith. Battlecry, discover a secret and put it into the battlefield.
It's a 2/2, by the way.
2/2, thank you. It is nearly 1 a.m. here. John, I'm going to let you take this card.
Yeah, I think it's a cool card. Obviously, like, discovering a secret is pretty good. One issue with it is we don't have Ice Block anymore, so that's really one of the better secrets to discover, especially in, like, a slower mage, which can actually afford to play a 4 mana 2/2. In faster decks, it just really doesn't have enough stats for what it does. You already know what secrets you want to play, if you even can run the secret package. So you can just get like Ice Barrier, Spellbender, and Vaporize or something, and you just lose. Or you get a secret to discover which you already have up, and then that doesn't even work. So it's not great. It's a cool effect, but it's just cool, and it's not actually good enough to play.
Fuel, do you want to add anything on that, or?
I do want to point out that getting a explosive runes or potentially a counter spell in a faster deck could be worth could make up for the tempo loss of not having as many stats as other 4-drops would. But I agree, it's moderately inconsistent and I think mediocre overall, but I don't think it's awful.
Okay, cool. Tachii, what do you think about this card in Arena?
Really like this card in Arena because it's it does two things. One card, like a secret is like 3 mana, and a 1 mana 2/2. That's another card. In Arena, when you put 2 cards together in 1 card, that's typically pretty good. And let's just look at the secrets that's going to be here, right? It's going to be Explosive Runes, Counter Spell, Barrier, Mana Bind, I believe. Mana Bind,
Yeah.
Mirror Entity, Vaporize. If it gets Explosive Runes and Mirror Entity, tempo, it's almost like gaining tempo in a way. So that's good. If you get Counter Spell and Spellbender, you're not sad about that either. You're just sad if you get offered Ice Barrier, Mana Bind, and like Frozen Clone. So the mind game aspect in Arena also makes it pretty good. I really like this card in Arena. I think it's going to be like a solid 4 out of 5.
Oh, okay. That is good to know. Alright, so let's move on to the Mage Legendary now, which is... Oh, where's the arrow? Tachii Time Turner. Tachii Time Tinker, sorry. 6 mana 5/5. Add a random legendary minion from the past to your hand. Alice, what do you think of this card?
So, someone did the stats on this on Reddit, and I took a look at it. You have like a 50-ish% chance to get like a net positive, and around 40% to get something that's basically unplayable. It's like not particularly good for a card of this type. Like if you were ever so the stats are really bad. If you like always Druid Hunter, boom, you play this in every deck, but you don't. You draw Major Domo or Patches sometimes. And yeah, I don't know. I think if you're playing Grinder Mage, like you don't need cards like this anymore. You have Jaina now, so you just like play more cards that enable Jaina instead of like value generators like this and Kabbalist Stone. Like Kabbalist Stone is a very, very unpopular tech choice in a deck like that. I think this is no different. So if you're ever playing that, you're probably not playing this. I think it's like unplayable.
What do you think, John? Do you agree?
Yeah, I think this card's bad. We can even run better cards that are value generators that are still here. We have Elise still, which is better than this. We have Sindragosa, which gives me 2 legendaries. We, again, don't really care about the cost if we're in a control matchup. And we have stuff to ping with our Jaina. Like, there's just better cards that do the same thing. I don't want to play this.
Yeah. What about in Arena, Tachii?
People are gonna draft this card. 6 mana 5/5 is a bit tempo, but it could just be like a big card when you need a big card. And there's gonna be highlights where you play this on 6, and then you play like a Doctor Boom on 7, and then you're just like, fuck, why am I playing Arena? Why am I like not doing anything better with my life? Why am I? So because of its potential game-winning aspects, I'm gonna give this like a 3. Like you're just gonna draft this because you probably need some late game. So there's a lot of shittier legendaries in Arena, so you're gonna pick this card.
Alright, let's move on to the next card. 2 mana 2/2 Archmage Aragal. Whenever you draw a minion, add a copy to your hand. Corbett, what do you think of this card?
The cost just makes this so much better. In that having this type of effect attached to this cheap of a body is really quite crucial. Where it really does allow for a lot of those kind of combos with Book or Arcane Intellect or whatever card draw we're running. So I think this is really interesting, and it's tough to evaluate the kind of mage where we're going to be seeing it. It's not an effect that we've seen a ton previously. But I mean, the body is solid, not fantastic, and I think again, it's tough to evaluate where we're going to see this card. But I definitely can see it in like having constructed viability, just because of how cheap it is with this effect. I actually want to turn it over to other people because this isn't a card that I've looked at too heavily, and I think it is something that you need to put a lot of thought into when trying to figure out the right home. Because at the moment, I'm just seeing a cheap effect that is really effective and could generate so much value, but it's just troubling trying to find the right fit for it.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
I've like thought about it some and done some math. It's like looking very promising when you think about it. It goes in the same deck as Book of Spectres, and like that deck is already like painfully low on 2-drops. So you play this guy, you maybe play Pyros. You turn 4, drop this, play Book of Spectres, draw 4.3 cards on average. That's insane. You're really happy to play this generally. And that works with like Bonfire Elemental. If you play Arcane Intellect, it works with that, as Corbett said. It's a really, really good card, and like the statistics are in its favor generally.
For Arena, this should be a really powerful card. Wouldn't you say, Tachii?
Nah. It's like an above card, just because say you drop this on turn 2, right? It's a 2 mana 2/2. It's like, would I play this, or would I play like maybe Pineside Summoner? Pineside on Summoner on turn 2 could be pretty nuts. So I think on average, this might just give you like 1 card. It might just generate 1 card. So I think in Arena, it's actually not that good because it's so easy to kill. And it's unlikely you can synergize. So I'm gonna say like a 3. I think it can give you one extra card, but sometimes it doesn't, and then you're just sad because it's a 2-mana 2/2.
Yeah, I guess for it to be really good, you need to use it with Arcane Intellect.
Yeah, you need to use it. But then again, there are neutral minions in this meta that draws you cards, so yeah, it's hard to evaluate this. But I would say it's above average, but it's probably not like 5 out of 5. So I'm just gonna say it's like a 3 point.
Okay, that's fair. Do we have any closing remarks on this card, or shall we move to the next class?
I mean, I'd like to definitely get Fuel and John's thoughts on this before we move on, because this is one of the more interesting cards of the set to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I do think this is one of the most exploitable effects we've possibly ever seen printed in Hearthstone, where it's for so cheap you can double up on your draw is really something that's quite special. I think maybe one of the better homes for this will be in a it will be in either a lower curve deck or a deck that's maybe more towards the middle, but what it allows you to do is cut back on a little bit of your more expensive value generators, because this can create a ton of value in your hand for still being a cheap card, which is very powerful. So it can let you curve a little bit lower, playing this in Book of Specters in a minion heavy deck. Let you keep your curve low while still having a reasonable value engine. So I do think it's quite strong, but it is tricky to slot into any existing archetypes.
Yeah, definitely.
John, do you have anything you want to add, or do you think it's all been said?
I think it's been said. It's really interesting, but if it will see actual play in a good deck, we will see.
Okay. Let's move on to our next class, which is Paladin. I'm going to start with Rebuke. 2 mana, enemy spells cost 5 more next turn. So we're basically taking Lotheb's effect and putting it into a 2 mana spell. Fuel, what do you think of this card?
I actually think this card is massively overrated. I would be moderately surprised if it saw any play at all. I think it's so hard to give up proactive cards in the type of archetype that's going to want this. Right? If you to the type of aggressive, build out a strong board, and then keep it alive long enough to hit him in the face with it, is what would want this. And I just don't think that's reasonable with that fitting into the game plan, because it's a 2 mana, essentially do nothing to the board spell, which is extremely sketchy to me. So I do think this is quite overrated.
What do you think, Alice? Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's like garbage. So the consideration is that like you fill your board and then you play Rebuke versus Big Spell Mage and they can't do anything. And then but like you've been holding a 2 mana spell in your hand the whole game you can't do anything with, and then every other matchup it's like total garbage. And then I really don't see it. I don't even think like Lotheb is as good as people remember it being. It's like a relic of another time where people put good neutral cards in their deck, which we really don't do anymore.
Yeah.
And like people, I think it's overplayed in Wild, where people just jam it everywhere.
I mean, Lotheb was good in a meta where you had combo Druid and Freeze Mage.
Yeah, that was a bit of a factor too. But like just in general, it's like one of those good cards which we don't really play anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing it at all.
Yeah. All right. And in Arena, this could have some interesting applications, right, Tachii?
Yeah, it's crap in Arena. The only time this card will be good is you have like 4 minions or whatever, you're like super ahead, and you just need one more turn to kill them. So then you play this against the Paladin and they can't steed against you, and then they're sad, and then you're like, yeah, I fucked them up, even though they probably didn't have it anyway. So I'm gonna give this like a 1.5. The 0.5 is that exact scenario happening, and lots of other times like you're playing a 29 card deck against a 30 card deck, and you're super sad when you draw this. So yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to the next card. Best sounding game, since we're giving out awards today. John, what do you think of this card? Sound the bells, echo, give a minion +1/+2, 2 mana.
It's cool. I like the whole echo of minion stuff, but it's really not good enough for any deck. It's just really, the cost is just bad. Like, echo cards are obviously overcosted because they have the echo effect. But like, you compare this to something like Spiker's Steed, and Steed is almost always better. Even if you get 4 prots of this off, Steed is still probably better. It's not really, like, I'll even play Kings over this. You know, you need 3 prots of this to be like as good as Kings. It's just really tough to actually do that. Like, people are saying Quest Paladin, but I don't think that's going to be a real deck. So
But my
it's not good.
Corbett, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with just about everything said. I think that people are looking at it and saying, this whole Quest Paladin idea, or slotting the quest into a control Paladin build, and it just completes the quest by itself. No, that's just going to be awful. This is so slow. We're giving up so much in terms of mulligan and this dead card for the vast majority of the game. The stats just aren't there. And we have such better options. That's like the real deal breaker here, is that we just do have such better options for Paladin if we do want to go this slower build. And, in truth, we don't even want to go this slower Paladin build anyway. So I don't think we're going to be seeing any of this card. I think this is being pretty overrated as well, much like Rebuke and a lot of these other Echo cards, where, I'm looking at the Reddit poll, for example, and, they have Sound the Bells just bordering on the top 50 of the set. And I think that's insanity. I think this is like really, really bad.
But I think a big part of it is like being able to split the buffs up. Like, I wasn't really a believer. I still kind of am not. But when I watched the reveal stream yesterday, like, there was a situation where it was really, really good. And like, Kings wouldn't have been as good, and Steed wouldn't have been as good. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. I don't really see it though.
Was that where he buffed like the 2 taunt minions he had? I can't remember exactly.
He like buffed 2 dudes, like split it up 2+1, and then killed the chain gang.
Yeah, that was it. What about in arena, Tachii? What do you think?
Again, it's an echo card, and echo and rush. It's going to be an interesting dynamic just to see which one is like more powerful. But traditionally, I would say echo cards will just be good in arena. Not going to be as good as Steed, obviously. Probably not as good as Kings, but you get to split the buff. So imagine a scenario where it's like turn 5 or turn 4, you have like 2 minions, and then you're against like their 2 minions. You just buff them each, and then you just win because you got the free trays in, and you used 1 card, and you killed 2 of their. So, and then there's a time where this card is utterly unplayable because you're behind. So I'm just gonna say it's an average card. Buffs in arena is generally, So I'm gonna say this is like an average card. It's a 3 out of 5.
Cool. Alright, let's move on to the next card. 5 mana 3/4 Ghostly Charger, Divine Shield, and Rush. Fuel, what do you think?
I actually think this card is better than it looks on paper. Certainly better than the sum of its parts. The combination of Divine Shield and the charge-like mechanic has proven in the past to be quite powerful, even on an understated minion. The biggest issue for me is the 3 attack, which will struggle on turn 5 to make a positive impact. But I do think it's one of the better rush minions in the set, outside of the warrior class cards, and so I do think it does have the potential to see some play, especially if you're wanting to run, say, Countess Ashmore in Paladin. I think there's some upside to this card. It's not so bad.
Cool. John, what do you think about this card?
I don't think it's great. One of the big problems is I don't actually know where it fits. It doesn't really fit in Control Paladin. I don't really want to play this in an aggressive Paladin either. Even in mid-range Paladin, it's kind of whatever. I can compare it to Argent Commander. Like, it has less health, but the health doesn't really matter on Divine Shield anyway. Obviously, Commander has one more attack and costs one more mana, but it's still a similar spot they're both holding, and obviously Commander's not really playable, so I don't think this is either.
It's fair. And Arena, Tachii?
I would say this card is like average to slightly above average. Rush, again, is good in Arena. Rush with Divine Shield is good in Arena. The card I compare this to, it's kind of like, it's like better than Hammer Wrath. Wrath, it's like 3 damage, draw a card, 4 mana, but you don't develop body. It's kind of like Cyclotron, 5 mana, 3/4 Divine Shield, but want. I would say with Initiative, this would be better than Cyclotron, and Cyclotron is already an average card. So I'm going to give this like slightly above average 3.2 out of 5.
I like that you compare it to Psychotron, actually. I guess, yeah, that's the most logical comparison.
Yeah.
Alright, next card. Silver Sword. 8 mana, 3/4. After your hero attacks, give your minions +1/+1. Corbett, what do you think?
I think this is the type of card that looks damn good in the reveal stream. But in actual constructed play, I don't think it's going to be that stellar. I think that Paladin already has a pretty good expensive weapon. Vine Cleaver is a great card, and I think it outclasses this in the vast majority of cases. I think that the switching from 3 attack to 4 is quite crucial. And at that stage of the game, I think that being able to refuel on the board is going to be a greater asset than possibly the Mark of the Lotus effect. I don't think it's awful, but I just think it's outclassed by options we currently have. And so I don't really foresee this making too much of an impact.
Alice, do you agree?
Yeah, it's just worse. Usually don't really, like when you're playing your expensive weapon, it's not really to push an existing board advantage. It's usually to hit them in the face for 12. And this like does it over 1 extra turn. And doesn't spawn 1/1s on an empty board. I don't know, I don't like it.
It's fair. What about in Arena, Tachii? It's a weapon.
Yeah, so people have compared this to Vine Cleaver, right? Vine Cleaver is insanely insane. It's nuts. This card, it's hard to compare this. It's an 8 mana, but if you think about it, in Arena, board buffs for Paladin are generally really good. Cards like Stormwind Champion, Sneaky Devil, they're like above average. Now this doesn't give a body, but it gives 4 buffs. Pretty slow. It's gonna be. I like to say this is above average, even though it's 8 mana, just because weapons are just good in Arena, even though it's kind of late. It's hard to evaluate this card. Some people might just say it's too slow. It might just be too slow, but I like to think, Stormwind Champion, Sneaky Devil, just board buff cards are just so game-winning at times that having more of these could be good. Be good for Paladin,
especially if combined with some echo cards that you draft as well, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like if you might not even have a good deck. You just have like echo minion. You just have rush minion. and then you play this. It's slow on turn 8, but you might just gain the tempo back if you have like a board already. So I'm gonna give this like a. I think it has really good potential. It's gonna be weird with Vine Cleaver because you don't want that many late game weapons. So, yeah. Interesting card.
Cool. Let's move on to the next card. 4 mana 3/4 Bellringer Sentry, Battlecry and Death Rattle. Put a secret from your deck into the battlefield. So it's 4 mana Mad Scientist. Alice, what do you think of this card?
So this card's somewhat interesting. I think people like it, like people give it more credit than it's deserving of. I don't think it's not great. If you look at the secrets, like if we had the Avenge, this would be like absolutely insane. If we had the Avenge and competitive spirit, this would like push Paladin like to never before seen heights, right? But we don't. We have Redemption and Noble Sack, which are like okay. I don't think you're too happy pulling those from your deck, like because you have to play a 4 mana 3/4. Then you have to put 4 bad cards in your deck to like enable one another. I don't know. I don't think it's like that great. It seems okay. I don't really see it. A lot of people like it a bunch.
What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, once upon a time, the math on Mysterious Challenger looks pretty good, and this isn't quite cut from the same cloth. I do think it's close to. It is a little overstated for what it does and its cost. It's I think that you could reasonably justify this effect on a 5 mana minion. The issue being that sorry, I'm driving. The issue being that the secrets are worse, and it's not nearly the same payoff. Challenger was massively undercosted for its effect, and this is only slightly undercosted for its effect, which makes the reverse payoff of having to put secrets in your deck much less appetizing. So I think it's okay. I'm not convinced that the package will go in though.
Okay. Tachii, in Arena, what secrets do you draft right now anyway?
Oh god, I barely draft any because they're just mostly bad.
Guess just Noble Sack, right?
I think the
Or
most
Getaway
common
Coda
secret,
actually as well.
yeah,
maybe.
the most common secret is probably Getaway Coda. But it's like, would you want to Getaway Coda with this card? No. Would you Redemption this card? No. So I would say it's deceptively bad. I like that this is a card because bad players will try to draft with synergies and just get fucked on. So I'm gonna say this is like, I initially rated it as an average card because if you get a secret, it's not terrible. But you generally don't get secrets, and the secret that we're gonna talk about later on is so bad. So I want to say a 2.5 out of 5.
Okay. Alright, let's move on to the next card. Paragon of Light, 3 mana 2/5. When this minion has 3 or more attack, it has Taunt and Lifesteal. John, take us through this card.
I'm really not a big fan. It's actually not that easy to get this to have 3 or more attack. I can put in an aggro deck, for example, and play like Dire Wolf and do that, but why do I care if my minion has Taunt and Lifesteal in the aggro deck? I really don't. In a control deck, like you can buff it or something, you put Seed on it, and then great, it has Lifesteal. But like, again, that's really not a great payoff to play a 3 mana 2/5. I don't know. I think I'd rather just play Tar Creeper and have the consistent taunt, or play Stonehill and actually be able to discover high impact cards. I'm not a big fan. If there's a lot of aggro, maybe I'll play it, but I don't really see it.
What do you think, Corbett? Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, especially for those more aggressive type decks with the Direwolf and stuff, I think that mentioning the Tar Creeper is something important, where the vast majority of the time I probably prefer the Tar Creeper. This is kind of interesting, at least in more of a slower build, if we can put it on, thinking, I suppose, like what's the buff called? The taunt one, the 6 mana buff. I totally blanked on the name.
Steed, yeah.
Steed. Yeah.
Yeah, Steed, sorry. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting if we can have like a big fat defensive taunt with lifesteal. But I don't really see this making too much of an impact, really. I don't think it makes the cut. I just don't think it's... We don't have the ability to get to that benchmark of 3 attack in the right kind of decks enough. So, yeah.
Yeah. What about in arena, Tachii? Is a 2/5, so it's Mindbreaker, but without the effect.
Yeah, I mean, in arena, this card is pretty scary, honestly, because lifesteal always have the potential in arena to just be like, oh, I was gonna win, but this guy has a lifesteal guy on, and I just lose. It's really scary, and with Sound the Bells, people are probably going to be draft Sound the Bells. And now hand buff cards are gone, so that's Paladin.
But you also play it before Blessing of Kings as well, and that's not even a hard card to draft, right?
Exactly. In arena, you shitless. They play this on 3, and then they kings this guy because it's such a good kings target with such a high health. It's unlikely to die on turn 3, so that's a very scary prospect. And even if you don't kings, you just sound the bells twice. This is like a 4/9. Like on turn 4, it's like a 4/9 with lifesteal and taunt. That's insane. So because the upside is so high with this card in arena, I'm just gonna say it's like an average card. It's like like you don't generally want a 3-mana 2/5. You probably want like a 3 or like a 3/4 in arena, but it doesn't die to a 4/3 or a 3/4. So, and it's so good. It's such a good buff target. Yeah, I might actually give it like a slightly above.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next card, which is 2 mana 2/2 Cathedral Gargoyle. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, gain Taunt and Divine Shield. Alice, what do you think about this?
Okay, so this card's really interesting. On curve, it's better than Minibot, and Minibot is the best 2-drop in the game. So it's like really, really appealing to think about. Being a 2/2 off Call to Arms isn't something we're particularly upset about either. Because like we're already playing kind of garbage cards to fill out their Call to Arms. Like Lara Wolf, I kinda don't really want to play. Argent Squire, we kinda don't really want to play. So that's fine. I think the like biggest downside is having to play dragons in your deck. I expected like them to print one more Dragon Paladin card because this like is the first since Dragon Consort to like be actually appealing and the one you kind of consider putting in your deck. And like the only ones they printed, or like the only singular one they printed is a Nightmare Amalgam, and that's like not really enough to carry the archetype on its own, since it's not something you put in your deck beforehand. I don't know. I think it's quite a lot of potential. I don't really see it right now, but I think like in its 2-year life cycle, it'll definitely see play at some point. Since like 2 mana 2/2 Divine Shield Taunt on turn 2 is absolutely insane.
Yeah. What do you think, Corbett?
Yeah, I think this card is nuts, but we weren't really given the right tools for it. So there's been a little bit of buzz about the idea of this Dragon Paladin running cards like Ebon Dragon Smith, or I think that's the name. The 4 mana 3/4 that reduces weapon cost by 2. So we can like run that and say something like Vine Cleaver, and all of a sudden we're popping down Vine Cleaver on 5. That sounds pretty great when we're also using like this better than Minibot card. But I don't think so. Despite that little bit of buzz that kind of deck has gotten, I don't think it's going to be the right option for Paladin. I don't think it's going to be quite consistent enough in what it's going to be trying to pull off. And there are going to be better aggressive Paladin archetypes that try to take advantage of Call to Arms. This card is nuts, though. And it's another one of these, keep an eye on moving forward, even though it may not see play right now. So, yeah.
Cool. And what about in Arena, Tachii?
Well, in Arena, this card basically reads 2 mana, 2/2. Dragon synergies, like, almost never happens. When it does, you rather have it happen on, like, a bigger effect, like Nether Spite Historian. So, like, even if they somehow activated this on turn 2. Yeah, it's pretty good. You're going to be behind on tempo to face this, and it triggers. But that's going to be like 1 out of like 50, 100 games. In all the other areas, they're just never going to play this card on even turn 2 because it's so bad. It's 2 mana, 2/2. So I'm going to say it's a below average card. The effect will almost never trigger. And if it does, it's not like, it's game winning. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5. Arena.
Okay. Let's move on to the next card. We've seen 2 mana do nothing. How about 1 mana do nothing? Fuel, do you want to talk about this card? Hidden Wisdom, Secret. After your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, draw 2 cards.
Sure. The potential upside on this card is quite insane. 1 mana draw 2 is absolutely ridiculous, and if you cheat it out with, say, Bellringer Sentry, it's a phenomenal effect. The issue is, how often does this really trigger? Same as with Rat Trap. It feels, I haven't gone through and played a bunch of games and said, okay, all right, that turn they played 3 spells. That turn they played 3 cards. If I had this secret out, it would have triggered. My instinct is that it's quite uncommon. Maybe it's happening every once in a while around turn 5 or 6, but I don't know. Maybe if they have the coin, it could happen. So if I have something that it is too inconsistent, especially for a draw card where you're really looking for reliability out of your draw cards, more than any of your others, and say reliability to me. So I do think it's probably far too inconsistent to see play.
John, what do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, if you get it off, it's great, but that's just not gonna happen. And then you just you're playing a bad secret, and the bad secret doesn't even trigger. Don't know why you're doing that.
Yeah. And Arena, you're not going to pick this, right, Tachii?
Yeah, so the card I compare this to is like Blessing of Wisdom. Blessing of Wisdom, if it just will just be a much better card because it's it's proactive. You have to wait for your opponent to be bad and play 3 cards to draw 2 cards. I like the example with the Bellringer Sentry, but it's like, yeah, in Arena, playing 3 cards on turn 5. That's all. So, yeah, 1 mana do nothing is better than 2 mana do nothing. So I might give this 1 out of 5.
All right. Okay, let's move on to the next card, which is the Glass Knight. 4 mana for 3 Divine Shield. Whenever you restore health, gain Divine Shield. Corbett, what do we think of this card?
I think this is slipping by a lot of people. I think that, well, for the first thing is that a lot of people are reading this and they're missing that it has the Divine Shield the first time by default. But I think that this is the type of card where we don't really need to build too much around it. It's actually very good almost as a standalone. Cthulhu's Chosen is the obvious comparison as a 4 mana 4/2 Divine Shield. And that was actually a very solid card in a variety of the Cthulhu decks. It was one of the highest upside kind of cards that you'd really want to play in those. curve out Cthulhu decks. The other comparison, I suppose, would be Silver Moon Guardian, which is an average arena card. And it's just a question of how much those extra stat points make a difference. That extra attack for Silver Moon, that extra health from Cthulhu's Chosen, with the minimal benefit that we don't really want to build around too much. So with those questions asked, I actually like this card quite a bit. I think the stat line is great. It's 4 mana, 4/3 Div Shield. Well, if you look at generally Div Shield on 4 attack creatures, it's generally like, it's kind of like costed around that 1.5 mana range. And so with a 4/3 body, that's kind of looking at a 3 mana body. So we're really getting like a little bit over a 4 mana card worth of value for just the body by itself, like without the effect triggering. So I'm really into this card, and I think that it could work well, especially with Bellringer Sentry for the redemption. I think that's something that people are going to look at, where they're not going to really want to kill it. And if we have the option of maybe going Glass Knight, getting the value trade because they don't want to kill it, and then getting that Div Shield put back on with True Silver, that's something that we can look at. So I like this.
When I see this card, I also think it's a target for Corpse Taker. I know people were using that in aggro decks 2 expansions ago as well, so that might be another consideration. But John, what do you think about this card?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it definitely fits in some sort of mid-range spell. I'm not positive if you play it in your aggro Paladin, just because you have good 4 mana cards already. Even the effect I don't really care about. It's just a 4/3 Divine Shield, which is probably good enough.
Cool. In Arena, what do you think, Tachii?
Really solid stats. 4 mana, 4/3 Divine Shield is like super annoying. Most classes is not going to be able to clean it, get a clean trade out of it. And then you can just get like a tempo advantage going for. Really like this card, 4 out of 5 for me. And, you know, I'm not even looking at the restore. I'm just looking at 4 mana, 4/3 Divine Shield, which is pretty good in Arena. So.
Cool. Do we have any closing remarks for this card, or shall we move on? Cool, let's move on. Yeah. Next card is Prince Liam, 5 mana, 5/5. Transform all 1-cost minions, or sorry, transform all 1-cost cards in your deck into legendary minions. Alice, what do you think of this card?
So, this, okay, so the first thing we need to kind of take note of is that it affects all 1-cost cards, not just minions, not just spells, all cards. So it works with both secrets and your 1-drops. And another thing we kind of need to take note of is that it only works in your deck and not your hand. So ideally, you play this with like Bellringer Sentry, and then later on in the game, once the secrets have kind of outstayed their welcome, you transform them into good cards. But if you draw them, you don't, which is really, really bad. So I think like that's, while this is like an okay effect on an okay body, I think not affecting your hand is like basically enough to make it unplayable, even though it wouldn't have been particularly playable even if it did affect your hand, because like it doesn't really go in any decks. You don't really play like the tempo secret thing with Sentry outside of a mid-range deck or an aggro deck, and then like Prince Liam doesn't really fit in those because it's a card that makes you go long, which you don't want to do. Yeah. I don't like it.
What do you say, Fuel?
So I actually disagree. Not necessarily that this will end up being a great card, but I think that well, first of all, I think you actually never play it with Bellringer Sentry, because if you've already drawn the secrets, it doesn't matter whether you transform them or not. And then if they're still in your deck, you'd rather just pull them out for free with Bellringer Sentry and keep up a little bit of tempo than transform them and then make your Bellringer Sentry just a 4-mana 3/4. So I don't think you actually would play it there. I think where you would play it is in a deck that wants to run more along the lines of quite a few 1-cost minions, which end up being very low impact in the late game. And so the ones that you haven't drawn yet, those are the ones you want to transform. I think especially worth noting is the potential odd Paladin. I don't know that will exist because giving up cold arms is ridiculous, but Baku is doubling Paladin's hero power is arguably the best outside of maybe Warrior, the truest increase in power for an odd deck. And then one of the big downsides that you give up with that much stronger hero power is your curve consistency. And to fix your curve consistency, you have to play a bunch of 1-drops because you'll often maybe not be playing 1-drops necessarily 2 1-drops on 2 because getting 2 dudes out is reasonable with your hero power. But just to smooth your curve when you have no even cost cards, you're going to want a bunch of 1-drops. You can consistently have 1-on-1, maybe 1-on-4 with your 3-drop, more than a slower, mid-rangey, slow Paladin would normally like to play. And that's where Prince Liam comes in, also an odd cost card, and he can transform those extra 1-drops that you had to put into your deck to make your curve consistent into real threats. So I do think he has quite a potential upside for decks that want to curve low and with minions, and then still be able to fight for value in the late game. Will he end up being just better than at least the Trailblazer? Hard to say, but I do think there are some places where you could look to try him out.
Cool. Tachii, what do you think of this card in Arena?
5-mana 5/5, pretty average stats. So I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean if I were to rate a card, it's probably 3 out of 5, just for the stats. Interesting card. I kind of see it like a Prince Malchezaar kind of thing, in Arena at least. So you're probably not gonna get 5 legendaries, but maybe you would. You're probably gonna this is gonna be an interesting card, mostly when it comes to drafting. Chances are, if you get this early, you're just gonna draft a bunch of 1s. But you probably still won't draft the bad ones. You just maybe draft your average ones. So I think the potential upside could be pretty good. It is just a random legendary though, and it could just ruin you the game but it's probably better than top decking a 1-drop in Arena at least. So I'm gonna say this is like a 3.33. It has like potential. And the stats is just average enough that it's going to see play. So, yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything else that we want to add to this card, or shall we move to the next class?
Nope, nothing to add on this one.
Cool. So we're going to move on to Priest, and we have Squashling. 2 mana, 2/1, Echo, restore 2 health. Corbett, what do you think of this card?
I think they were really trying to sell this card during the live stream with the Soul Priest synergy. But I think that this isn't something that's going to be seeing a ton of play. Like a lot of these Echo cards, I think that it's just been vastly understated at this idea of flexibility. It's so difficult to see where and why we would want to really be playing this. At each of the mana slots that it fits, whether it's 2, 4, 6, it's just really quite awful. And I think that Priest has such better options for healing, and even for not just healing, but just minions in general for this type of deck. Like even something like Divine Hymn that we're getting in this set. It's a different kind of card, but in terms of like the healing option that we're getting, it's a lot better. And I don't really see this making an impact. I think it's just way too understated. overall, and the effect itself, even when we stack it up, isn't really particularly interesting.
Sounds good. John, what do you think of this?
Yeah, it's just really understated at like every mana cost. I don't want to dot my deck, and this is a 2-mana Voodoo Doctor. Like it's not good.
Cool.
Yeah, it's worth noting that most of the Echo cards are cards that are decent cards at 1 mana are bumped up to 2 to make the Echo fair. This one's not. Sound the bells, or we haven't gotten a cheap shot yet. But cheap shot. These are okay Echo cards because they're overcosted, but at least what they're overcosted from was a playable card. Overcosting a Voodoo Doctor to get to play it again, that is a tough sell.
Yeah, that's not very good. All right, and Arena, Tachii?
This might be one of the weaker Echo cards in the Arena, just because it's a 2-mana 2/1. Voodoo Doctor isn't exactly good in Arena to begin with, and it's like an overcosted Voodoo Doctor. But it's still hard to see. I just want to experience Arena first, see how good the Echo versus Rush mechanic is. But I would say, Priest is not going to be in a good spot in Arena, so I don't even think the heal is going to make it worth it. So this is probably like below average for sure, so like 2.5 out of 5.
Cool. All right, next card is Quartz Elemental. 5 mana 5/8, can't attack while damaged. Alice, what do you think?
So this is kind of a difficult card to evaluate for me. I know some people were talking about putting this in like combo Priest. I honestly don't know. So since your hero power heals for 2, your opponent will have to like sink 3 damage into it to make you not able to, heal it up for free, quote unquote. But it involves playing Circle of Healing, which is like an okay card, but that involves playing a bunch of other things. So like it basically builds half the deck for you. I'm not sure like a 5 mana slightly better Pit Fighter is worth it. If you put it in.
Sorry. Is Hosen Healer rotating? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's from Mean Streets.
Damn.
I don't know. I personally don't really see it, and I don't think Divine Hymn is like a good card, which would sort of enable this. I don't know. I'm really not seeing it, even though people like it.
What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, I think this card's terrible. The upside of +2 health is not nothing, but it's not big either. And comparing that and what the punishment for that is that it comes along with anytime this thing is damaged, it does nothing. And so even if you can keep it alive 5 out of every 6 turns, or keep it active, that 5 out of 6 cases where you want to attack, that you can keep it high enough health to get that attack off. That 1 out of 6 where it just does nothing is not worth the +2 health to me. This card is, I just do not see this ever seeing play. The upside's just so low.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I think the downside is just just crippling, really. I mean, we look at a card like Frozen Crusher, for example, and I think that is like much more likely to see play, and that's like pretty awful.
What about an Arena, Tachii?
Tachii is gone.
Okay, John, you can take over Arena.
Oh boy. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably not great in the
We've
Arena.
got like 2 former Lord of the Arenas here. We can get something together.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's great in Arena.
I don't think so.
Pit Fighter's obviously a good card in Arena, but people are just gonna attack it, and then you have to heal it for 2 every turn, which is awkward to say the least. And then half of the time it just can't attack at all if they like trade a mid-sized minion into it. You don't actually have reliable ways to heal it besides your hero power, so it's just not going to be great.
Honestly, I didn't really like this card. I
Yeah.
was just like scared someone would come up with a like use case where it was good because so many people are singing praises. Didn't want to shit on it too hard.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Lucky.
Cool. The next card is Divine Hymn. Does anyone think this card is particularly great?
No.
Not really. How can I enlist? Kill your thinking abomination? Kill your board twice? I don't-
Cool. If we have nothing to say about this one, we can move on.
Yeah, we have Circle of Healing. I played that card.
Cool.
0.
Okay, we have 6 mana 6/5 Coffin Crasher, Death Rattle. Summon and Death Rattle minion from your hand. Corbett, does this see any play?
Oh, absolutely. I love this card. I think that this is one of the best cards of the entire set. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of this, cheating out Obsidian statues, and it's going to be very frustrating. Much in the same way that Lackey and Voidlord is frustrating. So, like, just with that comparison to Lackey, so we're paying 1 extra mana. We're getting an actual threat on the board that they don't want to trade into. We have the ability to like really search for our Obsidian statues with like say Stonehill Defender, for example. Because of the rotation, Stonehill Defender is, I believe last time I checked, up to about like a 27% chance, or maybe even slightly higher, to hit Obsidian. So that's like pretty significant. In addition to that, we also have the Countess in the neutral slot as the Curator 2.0. So we have the chance to really look for the Coffin Crasher and Obsidian on 7 if they don't want to trade into the Coffin Crasher on 6. So I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of this, and this is one of the defining cards for this sort of like slower control Death Rattle Priest that we're going to be seeing. I think it's one of the best cards. I love it.
Cool.
But you gave it a 3. Feels bad, man.
So I actually disagree.
Oh, go
I
on.
disagree.
I did.
Yeah, I think that this card is obviously a powerful effect. It's not tremendously understated, and to cheat something out of your hand is quite good. But to me, the restriction is not necessarily on this card itself. It's on what you have available to pull, which I think is currently fairly limited, because if you don't have a Death Rattle in hand, this card is awful. And if you, and so to deck build, right, you need a certain percentage of Death Rattles to consistently have one in your hand. But we just don't have those, right? We have Violet Worm, I guess, Statue, maybe Rotten Apple Bomb, maybe Cairn. The Death Rattles are just really not very powerful in Standard right now. That said, this card can only get better as Death Rattles are released in future sets. So it's a card to keep an eye on, but I don't think the synergy's there right now. I think it's, and it is slow. And you don't have great ways of killing it off instantly either if you need, say, the taunt right away, like the way you can with Lackey in Q Block. So I think it's a powerful effect, but I don't see the deck being there, at least not right away.
Can I chime in for a bit?
Yeah.
So this is a 6 mana card that cheats a really big minion into play, which is really similar to another 6 mana card that cheats a really big minion into play, called Spiteful Summoner. I'm honestly not sure what this does better than that, but something to consider is that since this is a 6/5, your opponent probably won't be too inclined to trade into it, like they sometimes might be with Lackey for like different purposes, but you're not very likely to be able to kill this off on your own. So it's probably sticking for a turn, and then like you're getting your statue out on turn 8 versus on turn 9. Like it doesn't really doesn't really make that much of a difference. I don't know. I'm not really seeing it. I think and I think you don't really run Stonehill Defender with this. Like, it's slow. Doesn't really. I mean, you're like building your deck around Lady and White a bit more than you should be. It all seems like really slow and somewhat awkward, more than it should be. And like, just play Spiteful Summoner and kill people on turn 7.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but with Big Priest, you usually want your statues to be in your deck, whereas with this card, you'd want them to be in your hand. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but you'll draw them consistently enough. You play this on 6, they don't kill it. You count this on 7 and draw 2 statues, since one is lifesteal, one is death rattle.
Okay, right,
So
yeah.
that's not like part. I don't think that's a big enough part of the problem to consider.
Right, that's fair.
You'll like pull a death rattle of this often enough to make it good. It's like, is that something you want? I don't think so, but like a lot of people disagree.
What about in Arena, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably fine in Arena. Like, it's and if you pull something that's obviously really good, you draft a reasonable amount of death rattles in Arena. You know, there's a few, so it's good enough. I don't know. It's probably an average to above card.
Cool. Let's move on to the next card, which is Holy Water. 5 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion. If that kills it, add a copy of it to your hand. Corbett, what do you think of this card?
I'm not so hot on this card. I think it's just okay. The comparisons have sort of been made to the Holy Fire, in terms of offering priests this this form of removal in the mid game. There are definitely some meta games where this could have been or could be quite valuable, but it's just such a weak overall tempo play the vast majority of the time. I know we're in Priest and that making these kind of like big tempo things isn't really like the highest priority, but I don't think that this is the card that we really want. And I think that overall just dealing 4 isn't quite enough. And I think for this card to have been really quite good, something needed to change for this kind of card. So I don't really see this. It's not awful, but I don't think it's going to be able to fit into a constructed deck.
Cool. What do you think about this card, Fuel? Ooh, is Fuel here?
Oh, yep. Sorry.
Cool.
Yeah, I actually do rather think this card's awful. I think the combination of the stuff that you want to steal is not really the stuff that you can consistently kill with this in a control list. And it's extremely inefficient removal. So I think this card is quite bad. It's just not good at anything. So I would much rather play a real removal and a Curious Glimmerroot, and have a body for another card instead of trying to combine these effects in a very inefficient way. I think this card's bad.
What about in Arena, John?
Yeah, it seems fine in Arena. Like, 5 mana, deal 4 is okay in Arena. It's not great, but if you get the effect off, it is quite good. You're looking for value in Arena, and this can definitely give you value by killing one of your opponent's dudes. Your priest, so you can kind of afford to play this slower deck where you just AoE stuff and then outvalue your opponent. And it fits that game plan, so it's fine.
Cool.
Probably average.
Let's move on to the next card, which is Night Scale Matriarch, which is a 7 mana 4/9 dragon. Whenever a friendly minion is healed, summon a 3/3 whelp. Alice, tell us about this card.
Okay, so it almost passes the vanilla test, as it's a big boy. You know, it's probably sticking a turn, and the effect, like it's fairly slow, but it's also really powerful. 3/3 whelps are like really good. You're probably gonna be able to get at least 1 or 2 out of it before it dies. And it's a dragon, which I feel is really relevant because Duskbreaker is probably like top 5 or best cards in the game right now. You really want to play that card in your deck, and with operative rotating, you were kind of paying for dragons to put in your slow priest deck to enable your Duskbreaker. And I think you just play this guy. He's not great, but it's okay enough. Probably. It enables Duskbreaker. I think like it enabling Duskbreaker is what makes it like a card you consider at all.
We also lose Netherspite as well, isn't that right?
Yeah, but sorry, Netherspite, like it's very relevant because like there was a very common line of play. You're holding a dragon that needs an activator and Netherspite, and you play Netherspite and it activates from the dragon and gives you a dragon to activate the other guy, and then you play the dragon. But since operative is rotating, the only dragon you need to, and Bookworm as well, the only dragon you need to activate is Duskbreaker himself. So you can get away with playing less dragons overall. Like you can just play 2 of these, 2 Duskbreakers, 2 Twilight Drakes, and maybe like 1 Amalgam, and you're totally fine.
Okay. Corbett, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I like this card a lot. I think it's really good. It's the body is just so tough to deal with for a variety of decks, and I think that it's going to be quite common that things are going to be able to snowball a little bit out of control once this gets the chance to stick, which it will. This sticks a lot of the time. So I think that this card isn't a 5-star card. This isn't like even like a 4-star card, but it's a very playable dragon, and that lets me play Duskbreaker, and that makes me very happy. So I think that this is decent, and we're going to be seeing a fair bit of this because of Duskbreaker in whatever kind of slower dragon build emerges with the Prim Drakes and, like Twilight Drakes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I like this.
Yeah. And then for Arena, this should be pretty good, right, John?
Oh yeah, it's like insane in Arena. Things that snowball are obviously good in Arena, and this really snowballs quite a bit. You play this on 7, they can't kill it, and then just heal stuff every turn, and get a free 3/3. It's just really good.
It works on itself as well, which I think is the best part. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the best priest cards.
This is kind of like Inspire done right, or like the idea of the big body that is useful when we're not like so dependent on the hero power, where we can combine it with stuff like Circle and just create these devastating snowballing board states. So yeah, I think this is really good.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move on to the next card, which is Glittermoth. Battlecry. If your deck has only odd cost cards, double the health of your other minions. And it's a 5-mana 4/4. Fuel, what do you think of this card?
I think it's all right. I think I think the effect is quite powerful. I don't think it's anywhere near as good because of the cost as, say, Divine Spirit. But if you really wanted to play, say, odd costs only, then this card is an okay substitution. So the effect is certainly powerful. So if you're already wanting to play that sort of idea, then I think this card's actually quite reasonable in a fairly proactive plan. But I don't think it by any means is an incentive to play that plan, so it probably won't end up seeing play for that reason.
Cool. Anyone else want to chime in on this card, or?
No, I just don't think this is enough incentive. I don't think we're going to be seeing this odd priest. And like Fuel talked about earlier, these kind of odd and even cards have been pushed in archetypes that wouldn't normally see play. There's no real reason to play the odd priest. So I don't really think we'll see this.
Cool. And I remembered that it's not available in Arena this time. So we're moving on to Vivid Nightmare. 3 mana, choose a friendly minion, summon a copy of it with 1 health remaining. Fuel, what do you think of this card?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the card?
Vivid Nightmare, 3 mana. Choose a friendly minion. Summon a copy of it with
Right.
1 health remaining.
Yeah, I think this card is bad in general, but is one of those cards that you really got to keep an eye on, because it's a bit like Witching Hour, right? In that anytime you can create something for, an open-ended something for 3 mana is quite makes me quite nervous. So I think I'm having a hard time at the moment coming up with clear synergies to play this with. The one potentially that I've heard bounced around is copying multiple Radiant Elementals for an insane Lie return, which can all be done within the 10 mana constraint. Past that, you could maybe synergize it with Leroy Jenkins or something along those lines, because it would have charge and the same attack. But yeah, maybe not a played card when the expansion drops, but one to keep an eye on, because the effect is potentially exploitable for sure.
I actually somewhat disagree. There's a combo deck you can play with this. So you can go Velen and then copy it, and then use like some variety of Radiant Elemental and coins from Gilded Gargoyle to buff to like gain more mana and play Mind Blast and stuff like that. So Priest actually has a really, really strong draw engine. I feel like people often forget this, but I've tested it somewhat, where I just put like all the draw cards in and played a few games on casual, and you like fatigue on turn 9 almost every game. It's actually ridiculous. If you play like Cleric, Circle, Acolyte of Pain, Spirit Lash, Pyro, and then Death Rattles in Thalnos, Hoarder, and Gilded Gargoyle, and then you like play them out and have them die, and then you play Twilight's Call to revive them, so you get more coins and draw more cards. So you cycle through your deck really quickly, and you can combo them very consistently. Which I feel like this is like one of the decks that might be able to beat Warlock on a fairly consistent basis.
That is a really cool deck idea. So basically you want to get Velen, this card, 2 Radiants and 2 coins, and then you win the game.
So you go, there's like a bunch of combos, but you can go like Velen, Radiant, coin this, and then like coin, Mind Blast. You get like 4 coins on average with 2 Twilight Skulls. Sometimes you get 3 Twilight Skulls. Sometimes you can get 2 of this, and then you have to like coin once, and you get 2 Valens and 2 Radiants, and then you kill them for like 50.
That's cool. Is there anything else we want to add about this card? Or shall we just go to Arena now?
Yeah, you can just go to Arena.
Yeah, so in Arena this should just be a pretty good card, right, John?
No.
Yeah?
1 health is not very great in Arena. It's gonna die for kind of free. Paying even a 3 mana, 8/1, that's still not really that great. We're gonna see Mage, they'll pin it down, or we'll see somebody with a 1 attack minion and they'll just kill it. It's not great,
Cool. Right, so let's move on to the next card, which is Lady in White. 6 mana 5/5, cast Inner Fire on every minion in your deck. Corbett, what do you think of this card?
This card is really interesting. In that it probably like when we draw it, the idea is that people are thinking about this type of Caliseth effect, or this idea of like draw this card and it's fine because we don't need to like build a deck around it that much. Like a lot of these minions that we'd be wanting to play in this kind of slower control priest that could benefit from this card. We're not really like cutting or adding too many gimped cards. We're not doing the whole 4 mana 0/9 or whatever that we saw in the reveal stream. But we're doing things like Prim Drake and Obsidian and creating these like more defensive cards into these huge threats. That said, I don't think we actually want to go down that route. I don't think that the effect is probably as powerful as people are expecting. And I think that even though we don't have to, even though the cards that we do hit, for example, like Primdrake or Obsidian or, these other high health cards, even though those become good, at the stage of the game that we're kind of drawing into this, at the average card in our deck that benefits from this, it's actually not that high, I don't think, in terms of the value that we want. So I think this is a bit of a divisive card, but it's probably not as good as what people are suggesting.
Fuel, what do you think of this card?
I think this card has a potentially very high upside, of course, and I think, if there is some sort of tempo, so if you're playing a Divine Spirit Inner Fire list already, I think this card could be a quite natural inclusion, because those tend to tempo out to play threats onto the board as half the game plan, and then just they can use Divine Spirit Inner Fire as a finisher. And so the stuff in the list tends to have high health in order to be good targets for that, and also but also tends to be fitting within the game plan of we're fighting for board the whole time. And Lady in White does support both of those things. She likes high health stuff, and she likes it when you are fighting for the board, because that's the point of having large statted stuff. So I do think she's probably all right, but you can't count on her is the biggest thing, right? Yeah, you can't play the very high health, low attack stuff that only really works when you've got her or an Inner Fire on it, because that's just too inconsistent. So it has to be a deck that works without her, that she just makes stronger, which I think is quite reasonable that could happen.
Do we have any other comments about this card? Cool. In Arena, what do we think of this card, John?
It's fine.
Yeah, it's all right. Cool. Let's talk about...
I was muted, whatever.
Oh.
But yeah, it's okay. If you buff your other minions, but you're playing an understated minion, it about evens out. It's worse than average, but you pick it sometimes just because other legendaries are bad.
Yeah, I think it's one of those legendaries you kind of have to build your deck a little bit around. You pick some things like, if you have cards like Nesting Rock and stuff, then yeah, this card's pretty good. But most of the time, cards in Arena have the same attack and health anyway, so it just depends on what you've already got in the deck.
Yeah. Okay, let's turn.
Cool. The last card is Chameleos. It's a 1-mana 1/1. Each turn this is in your hand, transform it into a card your opponent is holding. So it's a bit like a shift. It's a bit like Xeris.
Yeah.
Except you get some insight into what your opponent is holding. How valuable is that information, Fuel?
It has value, certainly. If there was a a neutrally statted card that gave you full information on your opponent's hand, I think that would be a playable card. Unfortunately, this isn't quite that. The random effect is a large detriment, because you can't plan your own turns effectively. It's the same issue that's plagued Shifter Xeris, Molten Blade, Shifting Scroll, any of these cards where you just can't plan a curve while you're holding them, because they're never the same thing twice. I mean, this one actually might become the same thing twice, but it's quite uncommon. And I don't think the random that the information gained is worth the downside of that random effect. That said, this is I think by far the best of these randomly transforming cards that they've ever printed, because it is from a limited pool. It has the secondary effect of the information, and it's from a good pool because it's cards that they, your opponent, already actively chose to put into their deck. So
just wait till you play this at rank 20.
Yeah, fair enough. But that said, you'd rather just have, I think, a card that inherently furthers your game plan, which tends to be the more powerful deck building strategy in Hearthstone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to like partly disagree with something you said. So yeah, I agree. I think it's completely unplayable, but it's from a quote unquote good pool of cards. So if you play Priest like these days, you know that Draconid Operative actually isn't that great outside the Control Priest anymore. Like most of the decks we see nowadays are heavily based around synergy. It's insane in the mirror because you steal cards you would put in your own deck, but there's like Warlock. There's basically nothing you want in their deck. Versus like Rogue, there's nothing. Versus Paladin, there's like Righteous Protector and basically nothing else. And then it changes every turn. It's like say you're playing against Control Mage, and in turn 4 you roll a Jaina. So you know it's in his hand, you know you're going to get fucked by it, but you can't do anything about it, and he's gonna slam it on turn 9. And first off, like he slammed it on turn 9, so you can't even copy it on your own turn 9 and play it. And then you like had it on turn 4. So you can't keep it. If you get a good card, you just like, it ends there. If you can't play it that turn, like other times you steal, Dragon's Fury when your deck has Powered Shield in it, and he has nothing on board.
There's a good point that we're heading more towards Hearthstone as a like the meta is filled with you can't really just plug cards into decks anymore.
Yeah.
You really need them to work
That's
together.
true. There is extreme synergy in a lot of lists that you can't necessarily copy with only one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, like this guy becomes Dark Pact and you're like, oh dope. Like I have Dark Pact in my Priest deck now.
I get to heal and Priest, wow.
Whoa. Or you get like Possessed Lackey. Whoa, dude.
Yeah.
Possessed Lackey in my Priest deck. What
Is there anything else that Corbett and John, would either of you like to add anything to this card?
No, I mean,
you go first.
Yeah, you go, John. Oh, okay. So I think you guys have hit on the major reasons why this card isn't great. We can't plan turns. That's very annoying. Our opponent put their cards in their deck for a reason, for synergistic purposes. It doesn't really matter a lot of the time if we know we're about to get screwed over, if we can't really do anything about it. And something else is that even when playing against more of a curve-based oriented deck, if we're like on coin and like we're heading into 3 mana. Our opponent's heading into 3, we have 2. They play their 3-drop. All right, guess we can't pick up the 3-drop. They play their 4-drop. Okay, I guess we can't pick up the 4-drop. And this continues on like that. I think that's like a very small thing, but it's also something else to consider. Apart from these issues of, synergy and, can't planning, not being able to plan, those are the biggest concerns. I'm shocked, though, that looking at the Reddit poll, this card is apparently the 13th best card in the set, and I am of the belief that it's unplayable.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we don't listen to Reddit on these cards. So in Arena, does this card have any upside?
I mean, your opponent sometimes has great cards in their hand, but a lot of times stuff either off curve or you'll get AoE when you don't need AoE. It's really tough to actually get good stuff. It's also an awful top deck. You top deck it, and it's a 1/1. That's great.
Yeah, that's tragic. Like that's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, you end up picking it sometimes because A, it's a fun card. B, legendaries can be really bad, but it's not going to be that common.
Yeah. Alright, so that is the first 5 classes of the Witchwood successfully reviewed. in tomorrow's stream, we're going to cover the 4 remaining classes and the neutrals. Before we finish the stream today, I just want to get your thoughts of, out of the last 5 classes that we've seen, what's a card that you're really looking forward to? What do you think is the strongest card that we've reviewed today? And we'll go around. We'll start with you, Fuel.
Sorry, that's the strongest card from each class that we've revealed, or our favorite card?
Your favorite card that you've reviewed today out of these 5 classes. What are you most looking forward to?
Let's see. Druid. I guess I'd have to say the probably the Whispering Woods. I think that's a powerful and underrated card that I'll be messing around with. Hunter, I suppose, would have to be Houndmaster Shaw. It's incredibly powerful. Man, Mage I'm going to pass on because I hate the design of all the Mage cards. It doesn't feel like Mage, and I just don't like that game plan. Although obviously there are a couple very powerful 2-cost cards in there. Paladin, I'm rather interested to mess around with Sound the Bells. I think that of all the Echo cards, it's got some of the most potential because it splits the nicest and is not that far off at each of the mana costs. So which makes me feel like it's closer to any of those old forbidden cards that saw some play. Priest, Vivid Nightmare, I guess, will be fun to experiment with. Yeah.
Cool. Corbett, what about you?
Yeah, I think Vivid Nightmare is something that I'm gonna want to experiment around with. I've had that OTK deck built very early in the release when Vivid Nightmare was revealed. I think Coffin Crasher is something I want to toy around with, and I also think Bellringer Sentry is something that we're going to be seeing a lot of, with Secret Paladin kind of taking, or an aggro Secret Paladin kind of taking the mantle as the default aggressive Call to Arms deck. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of those, and I look forward to, kind of like toying around with those cards once the expansion releases.
Cool. John, what about you?
For Druid, I guess Whispering Woods, though I'm not even really sold on that. I think they kind of just didn't give Druid much. For Hunter, definitely Houndmaster Rush is cool. Mage, Archmage, Urgal sounds cool. I don't know, there's definitely some minion heavy decks you can build around with that. It seems just fun. Paladin, I think Prince Liam's gonna be really fun to even just play around. I don't know, I like cards that turn stuff into legendaries. It's just a cool card. It's probably not the best, but it's certainly fun.
Yeah.
And for Priest, probably some sort of Vivid Nightmare OTK thing would be cool.
Yeah. And Alice, what about you?
So, in Druid, that's the Whispering Woods thing. I actually have like a deck theory crafted, which is like a really old school token Druid. Probably not going to work out, but we'll see. In Hunter, I'm not really like particularly excited about any of these cards. I just want to try Face Hunter, see how it does against Warlock. And Mage, I'm really excited about Book of Spectres. It's like a really interesting card. Probably one of the more interesting cards in the set in general. And then, like, I have like 20 Paladin wins. I don't really play Pally. And Priest, yeah. It's like the Vivid Nightmare beam and like some form of dragon deck with the Matriarch and like Primordial Drakes and stuff.
Yeah,
sounds
that'd be
fun.
Cool. So on behalf of everyone here, we'd like to thank you for joining us in the review stream today. Please make sure that you check out tomorrow's review stream, where we'll be looking at 4 more classes and the rest of the neutral cards. Anything else that we want to say to everyone today, guys?
No.
Cool.
No, just thanks for anyone joining.
Thank you for joining. And feel free to join our Discord, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.